Chapter 12-15. These people were simply too cowardly and boring. Weren't they very arrogant when they first arrived? Dong Huang Qingru wanted to shout, but she didn't know what to shout. This was a sign that only a clan master should have. Could it be that she had to call this woman clan master? That's obviously not the case. What should I do? How should I solve this problem? Dong Huang Qingru really wanted to pretend that she did not see it. Yi Hua asked faintly, "What do you mean by this? Why are you kneeling down?" Dong Huang Qingru really wanted to correct him. "This is not kneeling, okay? This is a form of etiquette. Are you blind?" Dong Huang Qingru didn't want to bother with Yi Hua and said towards Dong Huang Baiji, "Young lady, please come back with us to verify what you said." "Prove what?" Yi Hua asked curiously. Dong Huang Qingru glared at Yi Hua angrily. "I'm talking to her, don't interrupt." "Little friend, you are really rude." Yi Hua waved his hand at the air. "Bah." This sound was a little loud, but it didn't send Dong Huang Qingru flying. However, Dong Huang Qingru's face tilted. Everyone was shocked, especially those who were standing behind Dong Huang Qingru. How could this be possible? The head guard of the vestibule was slapped in the face, and he didn't even have time to react. Who was this man? Dong Huang Qingru was astonished. She was actually beaten up. How many years has it been? This was the first time he had been slapped in the face. "How dare you hit me? Do you know what will happen to you?" "Bah," Yi Hua said faintly. "End? I only know how to end others." The officials sighed in their hearts. As expected of Prince Yi, he really didn't give them any face at all. He even slapped the Dong Huang clan's face when he wanted to. Then who wouldn't dare to fight? This was too terrifying. Fortunately, he was standing on Lord Ye's side. Otherwise he wouldn't even know how he died. Initially, Yi Hua was planning to pretend to be a captive. However, after thinking about it, he felt that this wasn't appropriate. From what Baiji had shown just now, she must have definitely let him know something. If not, how could she possibly keep on saying that she has a pure bloodline? If he was the boss of that side and suddenly heard that someone else had a pure bloodline, he would probably be anxious. Thinking about it this way, it seemed that there was something fishy going on. For example, two pure-blooded people were fighting for the position of the family head. Then one of them cheated and exiled the other. There shouldn't be anything wrong with my deduction. This should be the case. I'll let him bring back the news first and then I'll go over myself. Are you panicking or not? Dong Huang Qingru. Dong Huang Qingru's face was. Dong Huang Qingru's face was slapped swollen. She looked so embarrassed that she wished she could disappear. But facing such a situation, Dong Huang Qingru knew that she was no match for them. If she were to force herself, she would definitely die. Since these two people said they would come, then it couldn't be any better. I said. You will regret this. The gigolo that stands behind a woman. After she finished speaking, Dong Huang Qingru disappeared along with her subordinates. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Just now, with which eye of yours did you see me standing behind a woman? It was simply making something out of nothing. I will remember these words and I will return them to you when the time comes. I said. Wah. Oh, I. Yi Hua was also aware of this. Just now he had only slapped them twice, and when the time comes he would slowly deal with these people. The ceremony continued. After that, Yi Hua gave a speech. Although he said it tactfully, what he meant was that if my little sister dares to mess around, I can only send her off in despair. Anyway, it was all kinds of tactful threats. Anyone who was smart would understand. After all, who would dare to mess around? They would respectfully call him Lord Yi. After the ceremony ended, Yi Hua prepared to bring Dong Huang Baiji to 9 provinces and 5 seas. But before leaving, Yi Hua asked his little sister to bring him to Qing Su's teleportation coordinates. When he saw the coordinates, Yi Hua knew that it was the coordinates to 9 provinces and 5 seas. Qing Su was an ordinary person, and he couldn't fulfill the teleportation conditions. Do Fushir could only teleport to God's realm. If one wanted to go to 9 provinces and 5 seas, one had to rely on this teleportation location. But for someone like Yi Hua, there was no need to use this teleportation. Meng Yao had the strength to come and go as she pleased. After knowing Qing Su's location, Yi Hua had an idea. I'm going to wake Qing Su up. If Wei Chang was in this plane, that would be perfect. They could get rid of him together. After returning to the palace, Yi Yuanqing suddenly asked, Big brother, do you want to go and see father? He has nothing to do with me. Yi Hua said faintly. I, the Supreme Overlord, had just met Yi Hua, and I had already beaten up Yi Hua. This could be considered as helping my mother vent out her anger. If it wasn't for giving my mother face, I would have directly killed Yi Hua. Yi Yuanqing knew that the relationship between his big brother and father wasn't good, so he didn't continue to persuade his big brother. In actuality, he didn't understand why his father was so against his big brother. In actuality, his father is still quite good. Although he always scolds his big brother, at the crucial moment he still stood up for him. If not for his father, I might. Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, didn't dare to say anything. There were some things that she could persuade Yi Hua, but there were some things that would make Yi Hua, who has a bad temper, unhappy. Yi Yuanqing pursed her lips. Big brother, are you going to go now? That's right, that Qing Su is in 9 provinces and 5 seas, I have to go and find him. That's right, let your subordinates guard the palace. I am afraid that those people will come back again. Keep this bamboo flute, if you are in trouble just blow it. Yi Hua passed a bamboo flute to Yi Yuanqing. Yi Yuanqing took the bamboo flute and asked curiously, Big brother, is there a surprise? Idiot, this is to ask big brother's subordinates to help. Big brother has something to do over there so he can't come. Yes, big brother, I understand. You and sister-in-law should be careful. Yi Yuanqing was still a little worried. Wouldn't it be a little dangerous if only big brother and sister-in-law went? Big brother's subordinates were so powerful, why didn't he bring them? In the past, Yi Hua had always been asking his subordinates to do things for him, and right now he felt that he was about to become rusty. It was important for him to go out and exercise his muscles and bones. Big brother understands. Just be a good emperor. You are big brother's pride. After saying that, Yi Hua opened up his arms. Yi Yuanqing lightly hugged Yi Hua. This was a hug between siblings, there was no other meaning to it. Donghuang Baiji stood at the side and did not say anything. She knew that Yi Hua only treated Yi Yuanqing as his younger sister. Seeing her big brother and sister-in-law disappear in front of her, Yi Yuanqing's face gradually tensed up. At this moment, Yi Yuanqing was the queen. She had changed from the little girl just now. But in the 9 provinces and 5 seas, Donghuang Qingru returned to her clan with unwillingness. The Eastern royal clan was situated on a rainbow. End of chapter. Chapter 12:16. This wasn't an ordinary rainbow, this was a rainbow that was stacked on top of each other, layer after layer. Every layer was a different color. However, the color at the very top was orange. Furthermore, every layer was very huge. If someone wanted to attack the Donghuang family, they would have to attack from the first layer up. Every layer was guarded by people, and other than people, there were also beasts. However, the Donghuang family had never been attacked for tens of thousands of years. This was the only time the Donghuang family was exterminated before they even saw the first layer. Donghuang Qingru was the head guard of the first layer, and right now he was reporting his mission. As the manager of the first layer, Donghuang Fei was drinking his tea indifferently, as if he didn't care about the matter at all, and he even revealed a smile on his face. Floor leader. Subordinates' words are all true. Donghuang Qingru said gravely, feeling that Donghuang Fei didn't believe his words. Donghuang Fei laughed. Qingru, stop messing around. What 3-headed golden crow? It is a serious crime to say it out. It is impossible for the Donghuang bloodline to be outside. If it is, it would be a humiliation to the entire Donghuang family. Speaking till the end, Donghuang Fei's face became taut, warning Donghuang Qingru not to speak recklessly. Donghuang Qingru didn't seem to realize the seriousness of the matter, but now that he heard it, it does make sense. Then, floor leader, what should we do? Just treat it as if nothing happened, don't look into it anymore. Even if something happens, we won't blame it on you, and of course we won't implicate me as well. Don't tell anyone about this matter, and those people that you brought along if necessary. Donghuang Fei made a gesture of cutting his throat, scaring Donghuang Qingru. Floor leader, if this matter is looked into, the ones who will lose their heads will be you and me. Subordinate, understood. You can leave now. Yes. Looking at Donghuang Qingru's back view, Donghuang Fei tightly wrinkled his brows. Seems like it's true. As a floor manager, I naturally know some insider information. That was something that happened a long time ago. Donghuang Fei didn't dare to continue thinking about it. This matter belongs to the family's top secret. If it's really like what Donghuang Qingru said, then I'm afraid. I can only hope that that person can't be found. Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji were both pointing their swords at this place. This kind of high-level plane teleportation, Yi Hua wasn't able to accurately grasp it, and it was considered to be random. Where to go would depend on the will of the heavens. For example, right now Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji appeared in the same room. The furnishings of this room were quite romantic. They were all bright red and there were even portraits of women hanging on the walls. They were incomparably seductive and coquettish. However, human reproduction was going on the bed. Dong Huang Baiji went into a daze for a moment, then immediately closed her eyes and turned around. Meanwhile, Yihua laughed lightly. This man is useless, look at that woman, she is just pretending. Perhaps the two people on the bed were too engrossed and did not notice their arrival at all. Yihua felt that this should be a brothel. He actually teleported to a place like this. That was quite interesting. Pulling onto Dong Huang Baiji's hand, Yihua walked out of the room. That woman is simply too dazzling. There's someone here? No. I heard the door just now. It doesn't exist. Don't move. After walking out of the brothel, Yihua hugged onto Dong Huang Baiji and observed the brothel. Feels extraordinary. This brothel was cylindrical in shape. Looking down, it was very tall. The height of the brothel was at least tens of floors, and it looked just like those large-scale shopping malls. Furthermore, it was packed with people, and the air was filled with a romantic atmosphere. Yihua felt that there was some kind of aphrodisiac in the air. Look at those men, their faces are all red. The boss of this brothel sure knows how to do business. Furthermore, this kind of building doesn't even exist in the God's realm. Yihua became a bit interested in the 9 provinces and 5 seas. Bringing your wife to a brothel, interesting, right? Yihua couldn't help but tease. You are definitely doing this on purpose. Dong Huang Baiji said petulantly. Yihua shook his head and did not explain anything. If I say that I can't control it, Baiji will laugh at me. Walking down the stairs, Yihua discovered that how long are we going to walk? Brother, there is a formation at the side, how are you going to walk down the stairs? A man hugged onto a flirtatious woman and said. Originally, he didn't want to remind Dong Huang Baiji, but after seeing how beautiful Dong Huang Baiji was, he decided to give her some face. Yihua said faintly, of course I know, I am just bored. After finished speaking, Yihua pulled Dong Huang Baiji and walked down the stairs. Dong Huang Baiji covered her mouth and laughed lightly. You are embarrassed, aren't you? Yihua felt very awkward. So there is a formation that leads to the first floor. I know about it. And you know about it, I understand. Dong Huang Baiji covered her mouth and laughed lightly. However, since her husband wanted face as his wife, she naturally had to give him face. Yihua and Dong Huang Baiji were on the first floor, and both of them took a formation to walk down the stairs. The speed of the formation was even faster than an elevator, and it was practically within seconds. Yihua felt that this method was pretty good, and it seemed like he was going to have a chance. The first floor of the hall had a different style. The entire hall was circular in shape and it was much bigger than the hall upstairs. There was a stage at the center, and a few women were currently performing flute skills. The sound was rather pleasant to the ears, and those who didn't know might have thought that this was a formal hall. Below the hall, there were tens of tables and most of the tables were occupied by a man and a woman. However, at the periphery of the hall, there were those private room-style tables, which seemed to be a bit more hidden. Yihua raised his head and took a look. From the center of the hall, he could see the sky outside. This kind of building sure is interesting. What should I do if it rains? Wouldn't it crush someone to death? Let's go, what are you looking at? You men love this kind of place. Dong Huang Baiji urged from the side. Yihua hugged onto Dong Huang Baiji's slender waist. Baiji, it wasn't easy for us to come to such a brothel. If we don't admire it, how can we do it? Baiji, don't you think so? Amen. To experience the atmosphere of a foreign country, we can just treat it as coming here for a vacation. Yihua patted onto Dong Huang Baiji's butt, making him look like a man who was drinking wine. Dong Huang Baiji chuckled. I don't believe you. Dear customer, what are you doing? An old man who wore a red gown could be seen walking over and asking. Yihua said faintly, I brought my own lady. The old man took a look at Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Baiji is a head taller than me and her temperament is so good. Lady, are you interested in working here? Yihua went into a daze for a moment. Dong Huang Baiji was immediately stupefied. Ah! Yihua let out a hearty laugh. Yesterday I was tortured by Baiji. Although this old man offended me, I can still spare your life. Dong Huang Baiji rolled her eyes. This bastard is actually laughing. Who asked you to laugh? I only sell my skills, not my body. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly. End of chapter. Chapter 12-17. Yihua's smile froze as he looked towards Dong Huang Baiji. What are you trying to do? No problem. As long as the lady knows how to play a musical instrument, it will be fine. Hearing that, the Abasang was very happy. This lady's appearance is really speechless. She is simply able to stun everyone. Baiji, you are trying to cause trouble again. Yihua hugged onto Donghuang Baiji and said gravely. Donghuang Baiji pouted her mouth. You were the one who laughed at me first. Am I laughing at you? Hurry up and admit your mistake. No, you were the one who bullied me first. You should admit your mistake first. Baiji. I realize that you are a bit arrogant these few days. Ba ba ban, Yihua said gravely. Fine, if you dare to go, I will call miss. I won't go, alright old master. Donghuang Baiji gave in. To actually use such a method to threaten me, can you be reasonable? Patting the empresses, but Yihua looked at the Abasang and said faintly, you can leave now. Young master, this isn't good, right? How can you obstruct this lady's great future? The Abasang advised. In the future this lady will definitely be a top performer. Yihua asked faintly, what great future? What kind of future can she have by singing here? Young master, you are gravely mistaken. Where is this? Dingzhou's Jianghu country. The biggest country, countless rich and powerful families live in Jianghu country. With how outstanding this lady is, she will definitely attract the attention of many feudal lords. Think about that scene, it will definitely be unprecedented. As he spoke, even the Abasang himself became excited. Yihua finally found out that this is one of the 9 provinces, Dingzhou, and it is also the biggest country. Could it be that there is such a building? This is really interesting. He is my husband. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. Not playing anymore, time to reveal my identity. The Abasang was startled. This is the first time I saw a husband bringing his wife to a brothel. I am simply speechless. Perhaps the two of them had a heavy taste. The Abasang spat a few words and turned around to leave. Yihua said in a low voice, if you dare to cause trouble again, you are done for. If you are willing to hit me, then go ahead and hit me. Donghuang Baiji said as she casually found a seat and sat down. Yihua laughed. Seems like I have doted on her too much recently, to the point where it has become a problem. Yihua walked to the side of Donghuang Baiji and sat down. Yihua called out to Donghuang Baiji and of course Yihua also drank some wine. I wonder what kind of place this Ding province is, and where is that Donghuang clan? Yihua said faintly. Donghuang Baiji was pouring wine by the side. Donghuang Baiji was very obedient. When it was time to be mischievous, she would be mischievous, and when it was time to be sensible, she would be sensible. Should we find someone to ask? Donghuang Baiji suggested. Then it would be meaningless. It's like buying a cheat code in a game. It's fun at first, but it becomes meaningless later on. Donghuang Baiji shook her head. If that's the case, then that's not right. You're the only reasonable one. You have the most crooked reasoning. Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. Yihua laughed bitterly. They are talking about the things that happened back then again. Suddenly, the hall turned dark. Yihua felt that this was a type of spell and not true darkness. Interesting, using magic to replace technology. A ray of light shone onto the stage in the center, and a woman who was wearing a white veil could be seen sitting leisurely on the stage. The woman was hugging onto a pipa. Following the appearance of the woman, the men in the hall started shouting. Yihua sized up the woman. Although he couldn't see her face clearly, he could feel from that arrogant body that the woman had, that woman's face was definitely not ordinary. What, have you taken a fancy to someone else? Donghuang Baiji said in jealousy. The number of women that Yihua sized up was quite few, and yet, right now, the woman was actually sizing up someone else right in front of me. Yihua said indifferently, I have indeed taken a fancy to someone else. Tisk, Donghuang Baiji was speechless. He's teasing me again. Beautiful sounds started ringing out, and everyone in the hall seemed to be immersed in the music. Yihua couldn't help but sigh, this woman's craftsmanship is pretty good. The more Donghuang Baiji looked at the woman, the worse she felt. This scoundrel couldn't have really taken a fancy to someone else, right? Your eyeballs are going to pop out. Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but remind Yihua. Your wife is walking at the side, can't you give me some face? Yihua ignored her, causing Donghuang Baiji to feel very jealous. After the song ended, the woman stood up and slightly bowed her body, expressing her gratitude. The men below seemed to have gone mad, and the screams were rather intense. There were even people above who were shouting. From the looks of it, this woman's background isn't ordinary. Wan Wan. Wan Wan. Wan Wan. The woman called Wan Wan nodded her head, but she didn't leave in a hurry. On the other hand, the woman called Wan Wan walked onto the stage. Sirs, today is our Wan Wan's wedding day. I wonder which lucky man will be able to obtain our Wan Wan's favor. No wonder there are so many people here today, so it turns out that they are all here to try their luck. Today's wedding day is a day to choose a man, and whoever is chosen will be chosen. This is simply like hitting the jackpot 5 million. The men below the stage all went mad. 1-1, my family is rich, I guarantee that you won't have to worry about food and drinks in the future. 1-1, follow me, my father is the head of the guards. 1-1, my father is a minister. All kinds of people instantly started competing with each other, and it seemed as if they were pimping for their father. However, this kind of thing, it was up to 1-1 herself to decide. Right at this moment, Yihua asked curiously, Baiji, do you think that she will choose me? Even if she chooses you, I won't accept her. Why? Isn't this a free gift? Yihua teased. If you dare to accept her, I will. I will. Donghuang Baiji bit onto her lips, looking like she was going to cry. Why aren't you coaxing her? What are you going to do? I won't talk to you anymore. Haha. Yihua laughed at Donghuang Baiji. After holding back for so long, she actually said such a sentence. She is still the same as before, I don't even know what she is going to threaten me with. Yihua turned his head and looked towards 1-1, very curious about who she will choose. 1-1 looked at her surroundings, appearing to be very shy. However, she still appeared to be very serious. The woman who was at the side said softly, 1-1, you mustn't choose those young masters, they will be very miserable in the future. And 1-1 understands. Suddenly 1-1 saw a man at the corner of the stage. The man had a head full of long hair, wore a black robe and looked very cold. There was a woman sitting beside the man, and the woman was very, very beautiful. Among so many people, only this man was able to enter her eyes. I have a candidate in mind. 1-1 said softly. Everyone present cried out in surprise. She has a candidate in mind so quickly? Just who is it? 1-1 lowered her head shyly, just like a little girl who had just met her lover for the first time. Everyone was very nervous, hoping that this good fortune would descend upon them, that way they would feel very comfortable. However, a white light flashed past. The white light shone onto Yihua's body. End of this chapter. Chapter 12-18. Donghuang Baiji was stunned. How is this possible? This damnable appearance of Yihua, he really can't hide it even if he wants to, and he's giving me trouble everywhere. How could a beauty chase after him just by sitting here and drinking? Bastard, he must have done it on purpose. He just wanted to sit here and wait for a romantic encounter. Yihua revealed a light smile and raised his cup to indicate that he didn't have any intention of objecting. This caused Donghuang Baiji to become even angrier. Yihua, this bastard. To actually propose a toast to me, he is simply a pervert. He didn't even reject a beauty throwing herself at him. What a bastard. Everyone's gaze looked towards Yihua, and they discovered that Yihua was a handsome guy. I can't take it anymore. Why is 1-1 stroking him so lightly? What's so good about such a good-looking guy? This was a pretty boy. Looking at the woman next to him, it was obvious that she had already taken care of him. Abasang realized it was that man again. He didn't say anything and said with a smile, Sir, you're very lucky to have been chosen by our 1-1. You have to treat our 1-1 well in the future. There was a hidden meaning in the old man's words, especially when he said to love her. He was speechless. It was very ambiguous. Yihua, just what are you trying to do? Donghuang Baiji said gravely. Baiji, calm down. This 1-1 is a local after all. We can interrogate her properly, right? Do you really think I'm so hungry that I can't be choosy? Yihua said faintly. We have been husband and wife for so many years, do you still not know my personality? If it's a woman, then I will go on you. In that case, my harem should already be in the 5 digits. I think you are. Is Daji beautiful or not? Didn't I not touch her at all? Seriously, you don't trust me at all. Yihua lectured. Can't you at least have some trust in me? Donghuang Baiji pursed her lips and did not say anything. When it came to Daji, Yihua was still very well behaved and did not touch her. But who knew on that day Daji's bestial nature suddenly burst out, and she couldn't wait to be bullied by Yihua. Seeing that 1-1 went down to change her clothes, Donghuang Baiji said, Let's go. Baiji, aren't you messing around? If we leave, the other girls will lose face. I don't have any face. This jealousy of yours is making me dizzy. Yihua smiled bitterly as he shook his head. This empress is really, are you leaving or not? If not, I'm leaving. Yihua had no choice but to hug 1-1. After that, he waited for 1-1. Donghuang Baiji struggled with all her might, but Yihua couldn't care less. Let me go. Baiji, don't force me to spank you. You? Shameless. Did you just get to know me today? Yi Hua said with a smile. Seeing that the Empress was angry, it felt rather good. Not long after, Wan changed into a plain robe and walked over leisurely, making everyone present jealous. Was it fine as long as they were good-looking? Sure enough, this was a society that valued appearances. At this time, Wan was still wearing a veil and walked over accompanied by Obasan. Yi Hua let go of Donghuang Baiji. Donghuang Baiji, who was standing at the side, was feeling very jealous. Donghuang Baiji decided to ignore Yi Hua for the entire day. He had just arrived, yet he had already attracted a peach blossom. Young master, you're so lucky. Wan is our top girl here, Obasan said ambiguously. Wan lowered her head and didn't say anything. She was very shy. Donghuang Baiji snorted. As long as this woman acts like this, men will definitely be distracted. Scumbag Yi. Yi Hua looked at Wan who was in front of him and revealed out a smile. I'm just lucky. Donghuang Baiji actually saw Yi Hua smiling, and she was so frightened that she nearly exploded from anger. This fellow always has a stern face and yet he actually smiled at me. I Donghuang Baiji cannot accept this. Then young master, please take off Wan's veil. Yi Hua laughed lightly, then lifted Wan's veil with both of his hands. Donghuang Baiji was having a hard time enduring. This is simply like lifting off a veil. To actually lift off someone else's veil in front of his wife. Yi Hua was a bit surprised. This Wan's looks are indeed not bad. Although she can't be compared to the Empress, she is still a rare beauty. Young master. Wan said in a low voice, looking incomparably bashful. Yi Hua patted onto Wan's head. Let's go. Alright, young master. Everyone looked at Yi Hua and Wan leave, and they still hadn't come back to their senses. That frivolous action just now, it's as if he's treating a slave. This hateful poser. He deserves to die a horrible death. After walking out of the brothel, Yi Hua saw a different city. This city was actually quite similar to Wuxia Empire, the only difference was the tall buildings. These tall buildings that were built using wood really had a different style to them. For example, the brothel behind Yi Hua could be considered as one of the best. The streets were still normal and the population was also quite large. The housing prices here are definitely not cheap, right? Yi Hua held onto Donghuang Baiji's hand. This jealous woman is very unhappy right now. Wan, this is your real name? Yi Hua asked curiously. Wan who was walking beside Yi Hua said in a low voice, Young master, this is my real name. Oh, what about me? I came from a small place, can you tell me about this Ding province? Of course, young master. Wan paused for a moment, then continued, Young master, within the 9 provinces and 5 seas, Ding province is considered to be below average. Because the tectonic plate is like a huge cauldron, that's why it was named Ding province. And this Jianghu country is the biggest country in Ding province, and all of the sects in Jianghu country are under their jurisdiction. Yi Hua nodded his head. So this is how the sects are governed by the state. Which province is the most powerful? Young master, the most powerful is Weihai. Wan said in a low voice. Yi Hua was very curious, why is the sea the most powerful? Because there are some very powerful people living on top of Weihai, and their surname is Donghuang. Yi Hua held onto Donghuang Baiji's hand. Look, didn't I find them? That Donghuang family is hiding on top of Weihai. Wan, how did you know all these? Yi Hua asked curiously. Wan's face was red as she said in a low voice, Young master, I only heard it from others, I don't know if it is true or not. Yi Hua nodded his head. Let's go and find an inn first, the weather here is really not good, it's a bit hot. In the blue sky there were 2 suns hanging on the sky. What are you trying to do? You even brought people to get a room. Donghuang Baiji said angrily. What's the matter with that? Donghuang Baiji really wanted to just toss this matter aside and go home. Furthermore, we are here for a vacation. Am I going to anger my wife to death before even starting? When Wan who was at the side heard that they were going to get a room, she became very shy. Luckily, gold seems to be useful everywhere and I successfully got a luxurious suite. Money really can do anything you want. Money is really a good thing. Wan, go and pour a cup of tea. Yi Hua shouted out. Alright, young master. Wan went out of the room to fetch water, and right at this moment, Donghuang Baiji asked in a low voice, Yi Hua, just what are you trying to do? Nothing much, I just want to ask about the situation, you don't have to be so nervous, alright? End of this chapter. Chapter 12-19. How can I not be nervous? Who knows what you are going to do? Dong Huang Baiji said angrily. Looking at Wan Wan entering the house, Dong Huang Baiji remained calm. Wan Wan poured 2 cups of tea and placed it on the table, then walked to Yihua's back and asked shyly, Gongzi, do you need Wan Wan to give you a massage? Of course, let's see how good Wan Wan's cooking is. Don't worry, young master. Wan Wan's cooking is very good. Yihua smiled. While holding onto the teacup with his right hand, he didn't drink from it. Dong Huang Baiji was so angry that she didn't even have the mood to drink tea. Wan Wan, how old are you since you started working in that kind of place? Yihua asked curiously. Wan Wan was stunned and said with disappointment, Does young master dislike Wan Wan working in that kind of place? A little. Wan Wan, you still haven't answered my question just now. Yihua said lightly. Gongzi, when I was 8 years old I was sold to a brothel. Yihua let out a deep sigh. What a miserable story. Baiji, what do you think? Dong Huang Baiji snorted. Young master, this is not a story. That's right, if this is really a story, then it would be a bit too old-fashioned. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Wan Wan, why did you choose me? Yihua asked again. Hearing that, Dong Huang Baiji went into a daze for a moment, then became vigilant. Young master, do you believe in fate? Of course I believe in fate. Then it must definitely be fate that brought us together. Wan Wan smiled tenderly, and her slender fingers placed onto Yihua's body and lightly rubbed onto his body. This made Dong Huang Baiji very unhappy. Yihua smiled and said, Wan Wan, your relationship with that plump woman is very good, right? Yes, she's very nice to me. Wan Wan, after massaging for so long, you should be tired, come and drink some water. Yihua passed the teacup to Wan Wan. Wan Wan said respectfully, Young master, I'm not thirsty. Young master, please drink. How can that do? Be obedient, Wan Wan. Yihua said faintly. Young master, there's really no need, Wan Wan said in a low voice. Yihua could only place the teacup on the table and said helplessly, Wan Wan, you are in cahoots with that obesan, right? Young master? Wan Wan asked in confusion. Your trick is a little outdated. I brought a woman to a brothel, which is a taboo in a brothel. It's strange that the obesan didn't say anything. And you, of all people, you chose me. Although I am handsome, you are too arrogant. Do you see this woman? You actually chose me. Don't you feel ashamed? Or did that obesan tell you about it? Hearing that, Dong Huang Baiji went into a daze. What is going on? Yihua gave Dong Huang Baiji a look. Woman, it's just that your hair is long but your knowledge is short. You can't even see through such a trick. You just have to remember one thing, the heavens will not drop a pie, even if it is going to drop, it will not hit you. If it hits you, then you will die. Young master, what are you talking about? Even I am confused. Wan Wan's face was filled with confusion. Yihua picked up the teacup. Drink it? Young master? I'll let you drink. Drink it. Yihua retracted his smile and said gravely. Wan Wan's expression gradually became grave, and she put down her hands from Yihua's shoulders. How did you discover me? Wan Wan asked coldly. Yihua blinked his eyes towards Dong Huang Baiji, then said with a smile, I was just speaking nonsense, I didn't expect that it would actually be true. Wan Wan, you tricked me. Wan Wan's palm turned into a dagger and pierced towards Yihua's head. However, when the dagger was just a centimeter away from Yihua's head, it stopped. Speak, who is the person behind this meticulous scheme of yours? Yihua asked gravely. Although it was just a guess, he was still curious as to who was the one behind this. I just arrived here and I was already discovered by someone, and there is even an ambush waiting for me. It's just that this person is a bit stupid to actually use a honey trap. Doesn't he know that the women around me are all extremely beautiful? Furthermore, I don't like women who don't have any personality at all. I am completely not interested in women who throw themselves into my arms. Yihua looked just like a skeleton. Wan Wan revealed out a malicious gaze, but she didn't say anything. Yihua stood up, then turned his head around and looked at Wan Wan, then lightly caressed her head. I think you should know Wei Chang, right? I don't know him. Women usually speak in reverse, you should know him. Wan Wan, Dong Huang Baiji was very speechless. Yihua is truly a scoundrel. However, this Wan Wan is actually a spy, and furthermore she is already lying in ambush in the brothel, waiting for Yihua to fall into her trap. Yihua said faintly, Wei Chang is a smart person, he definitely wouldn't use such a method to deal with me. It must be someone else, right? To think that using such a method would be enough, you really don't understand me. Yihua was also speaking nonsense. Who asked this woman to be stupid to be able to use such a small method to deal with me? She is truly too naive. She is even more naive than me, who is an undead. Bullshit, Lord Ming is both brave and courageous. Who does he think he is? Hearing that, Yi Hua went into a daze, and even Dong Huang Baiji went into a daze. Wei Chang is really here. Yi Hua laughed. Wan, don't be angry, let's have a good chat. This Lord Ming is your superior, right? Furthermore, you seem to like him a lot. At this moment, Wan's face really turned red. However, very quickly she said with a straight face, no. Lord Ming is so outstanding, I and the others can only look up to Lord Ming's back view. Alright, this is just a little fangirl, the kind that has already been brainwashed. However, she's a little silly. Alright, do you know Wei Chang? What ability does that man have to actually be fancied by the palace master, to actually be able to suppress Lord Ming? From what I see, the palace master's heart must be muddled. Yi Hua, this Wan is too awesome to actually dare to insult the palace master behind his back. This palace master is truly pitiful, his heart is muddled. Seems like Wei Chang's position is very high right now, this is a bit troublesome. In actuality, Wei Chang and I are opponents, the reason why I came here this time is to find him. And then kill him. Can you help me find him? As long as I kill Wei Chang, your Lord Ming will return back to his original identity. Yi Hua said gravely. Wan didn't say anything, and after a while she said, for Lord Ming, I am willing to do anything. Courageous, for Lord Ming to have a subordinate like you, he would be very honored. Of course. Wan said proudly. Dong Huang Baiji was a bit stupefied. Yi Hua only said a few sentences, and this Wan, my god, is she so gullible? This Wan must be a newbie, right? Wan, what is your sect called? Yi Hua asked curiously. Take a guess. Chapter 12:20. Yi Hua, Dong Huang Baiji, damn this Wan. Is she really a normal person? Why did she have to be sent to carry out such a difficult mission? It is too dangerous. How would mere mortals like you know? Listen up. Indestructible Shrine. The most powerful existence in the entire 9 provinces and 5 seas, even if it is that big aristocrat, they are not our opponent. While speaking, Wan's face was filled with worship. Yi Hua shook his head. I originally thought that it would be difficult, but in the end, this indestructible shrine was sold out by a little girl. So, when your boss dies, I will tell him that this girl is not bad. It sounds very powerful. Yi Hua said in a low voice. Of course. Where is your indestructible shrine? I won't tell you. Wan went into a daze for a moment, then hurriedly changed her words. Yi Hua's expression stiffened. You also don't know. Who says that I don't know? Wait till I complete this mission, I will know. Yi Hua, my god, it turns out that this girl still doesn't know. Yi Hua asked curiously, then what is your mission this time? This is a very confidential mission, how can I tell you? Yi Hua laughed, since you have already said so much, it doesn't matter if you say more. Wan thought about it and agreed, I seem to have said a lot just now. My mission is actually very simple, it is to follow by your side and report to me at any time. Yi Hua nodded his head and removed the seal that was placed on Wan's body. You? Wan, how about we make a deal? Yi Hua smiled. Wan snorted, my immortal divine palace's people are not afraid of death, even if you put a knife on my neck. Even if you put a knife on my neck, I, Wan, will not cooperate with you. Clang. A sharp knife was placed on Wan's neck. Wan's gaze became deep. How do we cooperate? Yi Hua, Dong Huang Baiji, I have never seen such an unprofessional person, can't you at least resist a little? How about we cooperate, you continue to hide by my side and pretend that you don't know anything. Yi Hua said faintly. You want to kill Wei Chang? Yes, after killing Wei Chang, your Lord Ming is already relaxed, isn't it? Wan nodded and felt that there was nothing wrong with what he said. Sure. Wan said very earnestly. This caused both Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji to feel like laughing. Wan is truly a newbie. Right, your contact person should be that obeisant, right? Yi Hua asked faintly. Yes. Then shouldn't you report your safety now? Wan was confused. How do I tell them I'm safe? Yi Huadong and Huang Baiji were speechless. Just who taught you? In fact, Wan didn't have anyone to teach her. Lord Ming thought that the more ordinary someone was, the more real they were. In the end, she was tricked. How are you going to report the mission? Someone will contact me when the time comes. I see. Yi Hua nodded his head. Wan stood at the side gloomily, thinking that her mission had been discovered by the enemy. Looks like I didn't hide it well enough. Fortunately, I should be able to help Lord Ming this time and make up for my mistakes. Baiji, what are we going to do first? Yihua asked curiously. Up to you, you can go and do whatever you think is the easiest. Outside, Donghuang Baiji still listened to Yihua. Yihua nodded his head. Then, let's make a trip to the Wei Sea first and deal with the Eastern Emperor family first. What? You guys are going to the Wei Sea? Deal with the Eastern Emperor family? Wan shouted out in surprise. This woman said that dealing with the Eastern Emperor family is the easiest, but this man actually said that he is going to deal with the Eastern Emperor family. Could it be that the Eastern Emperor family is the easiest in their hearts? They are definitely crazy. I'm not going to be crazy along with them. They are simply going to throw their lives away. What's wrong? Can't I? Yihua asked faintly. Of course not. The Eastern Emperor family is very powerful. If you guys go and deal with the Eastern Emperor family, you guys will definitely die. I won't be accompanying you guys. Wan wouldn't go to that kind of place even if she was beaten to death. That won't do, you have to lead the way for us. I won't go, I still have to serve Lord Ming. Wan said solemnly, giving off an attitude of, if you guys want to go and seek death, I won't accompany you guys. Yihua smiled. Think about it, if you help your Lord Ming get rid of the Eastern Emperor family, wouldn't Lord Ming value you a lot? At that time he might even favor you a lot. This man's words are a bit reasonable. If I were to get rid of the Eastern Emperor family, Lord Ming would definitely let me stay by Lord Ming's side and serve him. Alright then. Isn't this answer a bit too fast? Yihua and Donghuang Baiji were very curious. Just what is this child's brain thinking? Alright, we are currently in Ding province, how are we going to get to the Wei Sea? Yihua asked curiously. In actuality, since we are already here, we only need to teleport to the Wei Sea. However, since I promised to go on a trip with Baiji, no matter what, I have to take a look around. That's right, I just remembered in a few months' time, there will be a huge gathering at Tang Province's Tianshan Mountain. At that time, heroes from all over will be gathering there, and the scene will be rather lively. Alright, Wan still doesn't want to go and seek death, thus she can only drag it on. What you mean to say is that the Eastern Emperor family will be going there too. Of course, there is also the one who just became a god, deity Mengyao, who will be attending the gathering too. Speaking of deity Mengyao, Wan's face was filled with adoration. Yihua felt that this should be a huge gathering. Thus he asked curiously, Wan, is this gathering going to be a fight or something? Are there any prizes, for example, rare items? I'm not sure about that, but there should be. Then how big is the scale of this gathering? Will all the people from the 9 provinces and 5 seas be attending? Yihua asked curiously. Of course, this gathering will be called Tianshan Mountain Cauldron Seeking. Yihua understood. Right now, I know where the Eastern Emperor family is located. With Wan around, I will be able to dig out that indestructible shrine at any time. What is left is Qingsu. That fellow loves lively scenes, especially when there are good things to be found. If this is really a big event, that fellow Qingsu will definitely be there. From the looks of it, I have to settle Qingsu first. After all, if I miss this village, I won't be able to find this shop anymore. If I want to find Qingsu in the future, it would be very difficult. Alright, let us go to Tang Province then. Tanshan Mountain. Yihua decided. Donghuang Baiji more or less understood what Yihua meant. He should be going to look for Qingsu. After all, Qingsu is also in the 9 provinces and 5 seas. Whether or not he will be able to come will depend on his luck. Wan let out a sigh of relief. Going to Tianshan Mountain is at least better than going to Eastern Emperor family. Chapter 12:21. However, what Yihua didn't expect was that Qingsu was actually here, and furthermore he was even currently in the brothel. However, Qingsu wasn't doing anything bad. Instead, he was talking to the obeson, who had a dumbfounded look on his face. Indestructible shrine. Just now, Qingsu felt that this Ubasang was a bit strange, and so he decided to ponder about it for a bit. As expected, there is a problem with this Ubasang. To actually be from Indestructible Shrine, what kind of person is he, to actually dare to take such an arrogant name? Qingsu's fat face was filled with disdain. Indestructible Shrine? Do you have any large-scale events here? Qingsu asked indifferently. Beside him was a dumbfounded Dofusher. To Qingsu, floating battle was still too weak, and he was currently looking for things to make floating battle even stronger. However, the required materials could only be found here, and he had no idea where to start, so he could only ask around. If he wanted to find out more information, he would naturally have to look for large-scale events. There would be a lot of information there. Abasang said with a dumbfounded expression. Yes, there is. Tianshan Cauldron Contest will be held in Tangzhou. At that time, heroes from all walks of life will attend. When Qing Su heard this, he felt that it was interesting. Tianshan Cauldron Aspirations. This name sounded quite domineering. He just didn't know if it would have what he was looking for. Qing Su waved his hand and Obasan walked out in a daze. He stood there for a long time before he came back to his senses. However, he didn't know what he was doing. With doubts, Obasan put on a professional smile and entertained the customers. The Qingshu Will smiled and said, "Little Daodu, let's go to Mount Heavenly Cauldron and gain some experience." Do Fusher nodded numbly. On the other side, Yi Hua was also preparing to head to Tang Province. However, this Tianshan Mountain tripod competition still needed to wait for more than a month. This caused Yi Hua to be a bit vexed. Where am I supposed to go during this 1 month? He could only accompany the Empress to have a good stroll. Of course, there was also a burden Wan by his side. This caused the Empress to be slightly unhappy. After all, it was a world of the two of them, and the sudden addition of a third wheel was still very displeasing. Moreover, this Wan was simply a chatterbox. If you didn't talk to her, she could talk on her own for an entire day. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't hold it in any longer. Yi Hua felt that this Wan was rather interesting. To be able to converse with me for an entire day, she is simply invincible. Right now, Yi Hua and the others had already arrived at Tang Province. However, what Yi Hua didn't expect was that this Tang Province was actually smaller than Ding Province. The capital city was not as grand as the Ding Province. It felt similar to the Kangluo continent. However, the air in the Tang Province was very fresh, and it contained rich spiritual qi. People said that if you wanted to cultivate, you should go to the Tang Province. If you wanted to live a luxurious life, you should go to the Ding Province. The air here is truly too good. Dong Huang Baiji shouted out happily. While running, Dong Huang Baiji really did not care about her image at all. Yi Hua sighed helplessly. Fortunately, there isn't anyone in the surroundings. If there was someone who saw the Empress's little daughter acting like this, I would have no choice but to silence them. Wan said proudly, of course the Tang Province has produced the most exalted gods. Even exalted goddess Meng Yao lives in the Tang Province. Speaking of Meng Yao, Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji immediately thought of Yi. He was also a well-known existence here. I really didn't expect this. Wan, why haven't we seen any towns after walking for so long? Yi Hua asked curiously. Young Master Yi, there aren't many towns in the Tang Province, there are only sects and so on. Because the Tang Province is a province that mainly focuses on cultivation, not many people are willing to waste their time there. Looking at the boundless grassland and the mountains on the horizon, Yi Hua's mood was pretty good. Humans, when it's appropriate, it's still better to come out for a vacation to relax and disperse the haze in one's heart. How far are we from the heavenly mountain? Yi Hua asked faintly. It's still quite a distance, I guess. In any case, we just have to walk towards those mountains. Wan only knew this much. Yi Hua nodded his head. I hope that I will be able to bump into Qing Su this time. That would be perfect. I have already formulated a complete set of rules for Qing Su, and I guarantee that I will let Qing Su know what it means to be a boss. Since I was able to deal with you in the past, I will be able to deal with you today as well. If not, how am I supposed to be your boss? And that way, Chang, I'm really looking forward to it. It has already been a very long time since I exercised my muscles and bones. I hope that the two of you can give me some strength and not disappoint me. Just as Yi Hua was daydreaming and beating up his subordinates, a black figure suddenly descended from the sky and directly smashed onto the ground not far away from him. If I had walked a bit faster just now, that black figure would have directly smashed onto my head. This black figure is definitely a high-level scamming technique. Look, there are people coming. Along with the corpse falling onto the ground, another two people descended onto the ground. The two people looked at the corpse, then looked at Yi Hua, then shouted out gravely, "You killed someone." Yi Hua didn't expect that the two people were really scamming. Speaking of which, scamming is the same no matter where it is. Hand over the treasures that you have on you and the woman beside you, and we brothers can spare your life. Yi Hua stretched out his right hand and snapped his fingers while the two people were puzzled. Afterward, Yi Hua continued walking forward as if nothing had happened. Wan was very puzzled. These two people look quite formidable, why are they standing there stupidly? Then Wan stretched out her hand and waved it in front of their eyes. There is no reaction at all. Wan hurriedly followed after Yihua. Yihua, who are those two people? Donghuang Baiji finally returned and asked curiously. They are scammers, I made them scammers forever. Yihua said faintly. This kind of person, I should teach him a good lesson. No matter what you do, don't try to blackmail me. Even if you take out 2 mountain-splitting axes and stand in front of me and shout that you are robbing me, I will still have to admire your courage. But, scammers, I will look down on you. Donghuang Baiji turned her head around and took a look, but did not say anything. Wan, does this kind of situation happen often? Yihua asked faintly. I'm not sure either, this is my first time coming to Tang City. This place sure isn't safe. Donghuang Baiji mumbled. Hearing that, Yihua laughed. Just who is the one that isn't safe here? Donghuang Baiji went into a daze for a moment, then soon after she laughed. The 3 people continued walking forward. A few hours later, a figure could be seen. The figure was big on the top and small on the bottom. If one were to observe carefully, one would find that there were actually 2 people carrying a person. These 2 people were naturally Qing Su and Dou Fusher. Looking at the 3 people in front of him, Qing Su was a bit puzzled. Put me down. Dou Fusher respectfully squatted down, and Qing Su walked forward to inspect the person. Qing Su's brows slightly wrinkled as he mumbled, This is an expert, this is definitely an expert. Dou Fusher did not say anything, he was just like a robot. On the other hand, Qing Su was very surprised. To be able to kill someone without using any techniques, I admire this. Dou Fusher remained silent. This person's strength is probably on par with mine. Qing Su was very arrogant and started bragging. Chapter 12:22. Right at this moment, 4 to 5 people descended from the sky and surrounded Qing Su and the others. Judging from their attire, they should be from the same group. Audacious, you actually dared to kill our people, do you want to die? The man in the lead shouted and pulled out the blades in his hands. Qing Su touched his head and said, What do you guys want to do? What do we want to do? You killed our people and you still ask us what we want to do? Kill them. Kill. Qing Su shook his head. I actually took the blame. Little Dodo, I will leave this to you. Qing Su didn't want to pay attention to these people and directly walked forward. Audacious. You actually dare to look down on us. A sharp sword could be seen piercing towards Qing Su's throat, but right at this moment, a big hand grabbed onto the sword's blade. The thumb lightly pressed down. A crisp sound rang out. The sharp sword broke, and Qing Su continued walking forward as if nothing had happened. Dou Fusher's gaze turned cold. He grabbed onto the broken sword's blade and directly stabbed it into the man's forehead, instantly killing a man. Qing Su put his hands together, appearing to be very sincere. A few screams sounded out behind him, and then everything became quiet. We are still too slow, what should we think of? Qing Su muttered. Dou Fusher returned to Qing Su's back and didn't say anything. In the misty land of Tang Province, Meng Yao stood beside the window and looked into the distance while opening the handkerchief in her hand. The lollipop had already become very small, and Meng Yao couldn't help but hold it in her mouth and let out a sigh of relief. Meng Yao. Meng Yao kept the lollipop in her mouth and slowly turned around. Meng Li, what's the matter? Tianshan Cauldron Ascension is about to begin, you should be prepared. Meng Li discovered that Meng Yao was very strange recently. Meng Yao would often stand here and stare blankly. Meng Yao sighed, I don't want to go anymore, you can go in my place. Meng Yao, Tianshan Cauldron Ascension is a big matter of our Tang Province, and as the only god of Tang Province, you should go and show the prestige of our Tang Province. Meng Li softly persuaded. Prestige? Everyone in the 9 provinces and 5 seas knows that I am the only female god, what prestige do I still need to show? Meng Yao, it's all in the past. Are you still thinking about it? It's not good for your cultivation, Meng Li said directly, not afraid of offending her. Meng Yao slowly closed her eyes. A person she didn't want to see appeared in front of her. The more she didn't want to see him, the clearer the figure became. It was like a nightmare. I know. Meng Yao said in a low voice. Meng Li advised, Meng Yao, if you go on like this, something bad will happen. You have to stabilize exalted deity's power now. Don't waste all your previous efforts. Don't make the same mistake again. Meng Yao nodded her head, expressing that she understood, but to really do it, it's so hard, really so hard. Right now, I am finally able to experience my master's situation. Love tribulations. It really is the most formidable tribulations, and only men who are heartless are able to get through it. Women, Meng Yao, the main reason why we're here is to congratulate you. You need to rest up. Alright, go get some rest, Meng Yao said in a low voice, then sat down on the straw mat. Meng Li left with a peace of mind. However, after Meng Li left, Meng Yao opened her eyes, took out a lollipop and put it in her mouth. He exhaled slightly. A month's time passed by very quickly. Yi Hua had already arrived at the foot of the legendary Heavenly Mountain. At the foot of the Heavenly Mountain, there was a surging river, and the entire mountain was just like a lone island that soared into the clouds. Yi Hua felt that bad review. They don't even have a place to stay, and they are still here at Heavenly Mountain? They are just a bunch of people who have nothing better to do. Whatever sect, whatever family, all of them are bragging to the heavens. I am not here to listen to you guys bragging, I am here to look for Qing Su. At the foot of the mountain, there were various sects and clans that were setting up their tents and visiting each other. However, Yi Hua was currently looking for Qing Su's figure. After looking around for a while, he still couldn't find Qing Su. This made Yi Hua feel that Qing Su wasn't coming? Did you see that fatty Qing Su? Yi Hua asked faintly. Donghuang Baiji was also helping to look for Qing Su, but she wasn't able to find him, and instead she found a bunch of trouble. Behind Donghuang Baiji were a few youngsters, and from a single look, one could tell that they were disciples from some big sect. Their expressions were very arrogant, as if their father was the supreme overlord, and they could do whatever they wanted. I didn't manage to find him. Donghuang Baiji said helplessly. Who asked me to be so beautiful? I have brought trouble for Yi Hua again. At this moment, Wan also returned, and similarly, there were a few youngsters following behind her. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. I told you guys to look for Qing Su, but in the end you guys came back with a tail. Don't you know that I hate dealing with this kind of thing? And I already hate this kind of way of acting cool, it's not cool at all. Young lady, I am a disciple of Jiang family, nice to meet you. One of the youngsters said with a smile. Young lady, I am a disciple of Eastern Imperial family, can I walk with you? Young lady, I am, as expected, they were all from prestigious families. Even their target, the Donghuang clan, had come. Donghuang Baiji and Wan didn't say anything and directly stood behind Yi Hua. Yi Hua suddenly felt like calling his subordinates over. I really don't want to make a move on these small fries, they are simply wasting my stamina. What are you guys doing? Suddenly a voice rang out. Donghuang Qingru could be seen walking over slowly, and then she was stunned. Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji were also stunned. This is too much of a coincidence, right? The world is so big and we actually met each other so quickly. Donghuang Qingru didn't know what to do. The floor manager told me to keep this a secret, and yet these two people actually came over. I'm finished, Lord Qingru, this woman. Shut up. Scram. Donghuang Qingru shouted out angrily. Everyone noticed Donghuang Qingru's strange behavior and felt very astonished. Could it be that this woman wants to monopolize this place? Donghuang Qingru, this isn't good, right? Do you want to monopolize this place? That's right, after chasing away the disciple, you want to monopolize this place? What a bad idea. Eastern Imperial family is only like this, that's all. Donghuang Qingru didn't know what to say. From what the floor manager said, this is the Eastern Imperial family scandal, how can I possibly let others know about it? Yi Hua crooked his finger towards Donghuang Baiji. Such a frivolous action, if it was in the past, Donghuang Qingru would have flipped out long ago. However, I don't dare to do that now, this man is very scary. Donghuang Qingru pretended to be very tsundere and walked in front of Yi Hua. Since we have already met, when this matter ends, let's go to your family together. Yi Hua said faintly. However, Wan who was at the side immediately said, I won't be going. Yi Hua expressed that it was impossible. Wan didn't understand. Do you think that the Eastern Imperial family is your backyard, that you can just go there whenever you want? Don't you know that it is very scary? Donghuang Qingru was already a bit frightened. If I were to bring them over, and if they were to investigate this matter, I would have to bear a huge responsibility. Chapter 12:23. If I don't bring him along, this man will definitely kill me. Since I'm going to die either way, I can only admit defeat. Who asked him to be so strong? I have no choice but to lower my head. Is there no boss coming? Yi Hua asked curiously and changed the topic. Donghuang Qingru nodded her head. Yes, the main purpose of this Tianshan Mountain competition is to congratulate Goddess Meng Yao. Normally, family heads would only bring their regards. Just bring? Isn't this the same as looking down on that Goddess Meng Yao? Yi Hua said faintly. The boss actually doesn't go out and let his underling bring him along. If this isn't looking down on her, then what is it? Dong Huang Qingru didn't know how to explain it. This is just a matter of tradition. Would all the other gods have to come and congratulate a newly ascended god? Wouldn't that be very embarrassing? Furthermore, it's a woman. To be able to bring a gift is already a sign that they like her. At this moment, a colorful cloud flew over with a strong aura. Everyone couldn't help but look over, and their gazes were filled with respect. Could this be? The colorful cloud descended and a beautiful figure appeared. Everyone was stunned by the woman in front of them. They immediately cupped their hands and shouted, "Greetings to Goddess Meng Yao." The person who came was naturally Meng Yao. To be honest, she didn't want to come, but she had to. However, when she saw Yi Hua, she felt a little weird. When she saw Dong Huang Baiji behind Yi Hua, she knew that it was her. It's the emperor, not him. Everyone, you have worked hard. The gate of Tianshan Mountain has already opened. You can all go up now. Meng Yao said gently. Actually, this Tianshan Mountain competition was a cultivation convention. Above Tianshan Mountain, there was dense spiritual energy. Gods wouldn't care about spiritual energy, but these disciples valued it. Training here for 7 days was equivalent to training outside for 700 days. To them, 700 years wasn't much, but it would be hard for them to get through it. Now that there was a chance, they naturally wouldn't let it go. Beauties were just fleeting clouds, it was more important to increase one's strength. Even Dong Huang Qingru fought hard to get this spot. I'll go up first. Dong Huang Qingru said softly. Yi Hua waved his hand. He didn't expect this Tianshan Mountain competition to be so boring. The only expert was Meng Yao. Even now, she was not sure if that bastard Qing Su would come. After everyone ascended the heavenly mountain, Yi Hua looked at Meng Yao and said faintly, "To think that I would be able to meet her here." "Yeah, what a coincidence," Meng Yao muttered. "You mistook me as Xiao Tian just now, right?" Yi Hua couldn't help but say. In actuality, it could be seen that Meng Yao was a bit disappointed just now. This little brother of his was actually able to make an exalted god worry about him. Not bad, he was quite capable. That's more like my younger brother, a man who can do great things. Wan was dumbfounded. She never expected them to know each other. How was that possible? How did they know each other? It seemed like they were very familiar with each other. "No," Meng Yao said softly. Yi Hua let out a long sigh and his tone was filled with regret. Dong Huang Baiji immediately knew what Yi Hua was going to do. Meng Yao frowned slightly, not understanding what he meant. "Meng Yao, I'm afraid that you won't be able to see little Tian anymore in the future." Yi Hua appeared to be incomparably regretful, making it seem as if Yi Juetian had already died. At least that was what Meng Yao thought, but she was too embarrassed to ask. Could it be that something happened to him? That shouldn't be possible, he has such a powerful big brother, no matter what, nothing should happen to him. Yi Hua didn't say anything else and stood with his hands behind his back. "Although you are a god, you are still a woman. I am very experienced, I don't believe that you won't ask. Let's see who can hold back." Dong Huang Baiji poked Yi Hua. "You are about the same. Other people indeed want to know, but they are too embarrassed to ask." Wan felt that it would be better for her to stay further away from Yi Hua, in case he killed her to silence her if she knew too much. After Wan left, Meng Yao really asked Yi Hua, "What's wrong?" Yi Hua was secretly delighted. Seems like this god Meng Yao is still worried about Xiao Tian. This is truly not easy. However, speaking of which, I was the one who tried to tear them apart in the past, so this time I will properly play the matchmaker. Whether or not they will be able to succeed, it all depends on whether or not they are fated to be together. 9 deaths and 1 lives. Yi Hua said faintly. As expected, after hearing Yi Hua say that 9 deaths and 1 lives, Meng Yao's brows tightly wrinkled, appearing to be very heavy. Her emotions were also very complicated. "What do you mean?" Meng Yao asked. Yi Hua shook his head. "Meng Yao, Xiao Tian knows that he is guilty, so he went to a very dangerous place. I tried to stop him again and again, but it was to no avail. It was as if he was sending himself to death. Perhaps this is a kind of release. In the future you will be able to be at ease. After all, this is just a calamity, don't take it to heart," Yi Hua said gravely. Although it seemed like he was tearing apart Meng Yao, in actuality he was just playing the matchmaker. Dong Huang Baiji felt very helpless. This Moon Elder has become a Moon Elder again. Meng Yao said gravely, "Indeed, this is just a calamity, I won't take it to heart. What the f***ck, is this not a normal path? Shouldn't I be asking about it? Right, let me tell you a secret." Yi Hua couldn't help but say. He decided to scam his little brother. Dong Huang Baiji was very curious. What is Yi Hua going to tell me? Meng Yao was very curious about this secret. Didn't I give you a jade slip last time? However, the corresponding one is not with me anymore, it is with little Tian. I told him that you will be in trouble, and he will go and train without saying a word. When the time comes, I hope that he will be able to help you. However, little Tian will pretend to be me and help you. Donghuang Baiji was incomparably shocked. This person actually sold out little Tian just like that? Is this really a good thing? Yihua continued, if you want to see him then just crush the jade slip. If you don't want to see him then forget about it. However, I will definitely do what I promised you. You can keep this jade slip, you can choose which one you want to crush. Yihua gave another jade slip to Meng Yao, it could be counted as a kind of apology. Meng Yao took the jade slip and said in a low voice, thank you. No need. Then, I won't be accompanying you all anymore, I have to go and give a lecture. Meng Yao said in a low voice. After all, this Tianshan Mountain Ascension competition was still going on, and according to convention I, the god, have to go and impart some of my experiences. This is the Tianshan Mountain Ascension competition. Even Yihua was misled by Wan. And here I thought that it was going to be some grand martial arts competition. To Yihua this was just a small show, but to others with a god's guidance, it would be much easier for them. After Meng Yao left, Yihua lit up a stick of cigarette. Chapter 12:24. Yihua, do you think that Meng Yao will look for little Tian? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. Yihua shook his head, at the very least it won't happen in a short period of time. Perhaps, it won't happen in this lifetime. For something like fate, if it truly exists, it will definitely not be broken. You actually have such an epiphany? How fate? I still have my own views on the matters between a man and a woman. Yihua expressed that he was already an experienced person, and he was completely able to act arrogantly. Donghuang Baiji clicked her tongue. You really know how to boast. Alright, you don't have to smoke anymore. These few days you have been addicted to smoking. Donghuang Baiji snatched away the cigarette from Yihua's hand, then threw it away. Yihua smiled. Let's go, we should also go up and listen to the discussion and broaden our horizons. Since he had to wait for Donghuang Qingru, he decided to go up and listen. The mountain looked very tall, but there was still a teleportation formation at the bottom. It was really for lazy people. After passing through the teleportation formation, a huge compass appeared in front of them. The sky was black and dotted with stars. It was a very romantic scene. At the very least, Donghuang Baiji felt that it was very romantic. This kind of starry sky was truly rarely seen. Even Wan was captivated. She fantasized about sitting here with Lord Ming and staying together forever. How wonderful would that be? Everyone was sitting cross-legged around the compass. Meng Yao was sitting in the center talking about the Great Tao. Yihua directly ignored it. This kind of thing is only useful to trick little kids. Can these people understand the Great Tao that you, a god, are talking about? That does not exist. Fortunately, now that everyone was gathered together, it would be easier to find them. After all, with Qing Su's size, if he was really here, he would definitely be able to see it. Yihua took a glance, and the corner of his mouth arced up as he walked towards the left side. Donghuang Baiji hurriedly followed after Donghuang Baiji. Wan, who was at the side, had yet to come back to her senses and was currently engrossed in looking at the starry sky. Yihua did indeed see an enormous figure in that iconic moment. It was truly hard for me to find it. Qing Su, I didn't expect that I understood you so well. I reckon that you are also cursing me in your heart, right? He was even caught by the Supreme Overlord. How tragic. Yihua directly sat cross-legged beside Qing Su. Donghuang Baiji had never seen Qing Su before, but she had seen Do Fushi before. Do Fushi was also coiled up to the side. At this time, Qing Su's eyes were closed. He rotated the Buddhist beads in his hand and slowly said, Benefactor, you're really persistent. Qing Su, stop pretending. Yihua said faintly. Qing Su opened his eyes, but they were still aslit. Benefactor, what exactly do you want? I want to hit you. Yihua said very straightforwardly. If this fellow doesn't hit me, I will feel very apologetic in my heart. He glanced at Do Fushi, who had been turned into a fool by Qing Su. He didn't know if he could turn back. Qing Su heaved a sigh of relief. Benefactor, there are many people who want to kill me, but none of them have succeeded. That's right, no one is able to succeed, but I, the Supreme Overlord, am not a human. Yihua said gravely. These words stunned Qing Su. Are you a transvestite? Donghuang Baiji, who was at the back, Why do I feel that all of Yi Hua's subordinates are a little chinibu? Today, no matter what, I will beat you awake. If I can't wake you up, then I will keep beating you. I'll beat you until you wake up. Benefactor, I know that you are very powerful. However, I am not bad myself. If the two of us were to fight, I fear that these people would not be so lucky, Jianghu said coolly. He simply did not care about these people, treating them as though they were ants. So, fighting is usually done by commoners and bastards. How about we play something a little more powerful? Jianghu suggested. Yi Hua didn't even think too much and said straightforwardly, sure, how do you want to play? How about we each send one person to represent us in the battle? Yi Hua knew what Jianghu was thinking about. So, it's still the same old trick as before. The reason why Jianghu wanted to make the world of solitude stronger was because he was experimenting. He felt a sense of accomplishment towards the world of solitude. After all, he had created it himself. Therefore, using something that he had created to participate in the battle would give him face even if he won. He was also quite confident in his floating battle. Sure. Yi Hua naturally wouldn't back down. Since you, Jianghu, are able to make others stronger, I, the Supreme Overlord, am naturally able to make others stronger as well. Jianghu, your biggest weakness is that you underestimate my strength, and this kind of underestimation is fatal. Little Do, Jianghu calmly called. Do Fusher opened his eyes, and his dark purple pupils deepened. Yes. Floating World's voice made the surrounding people very unhappy. You're sick. Don't you know how to be quiet? That's right, to be so arrogant in front of High God Mengyao. Which sect are you from? State your name. You are simply lacking in quality. How did this kind of person manage to sneak in? Jianghu scratched his eyebrows. Just when he was about to curse at Do Fusher, he grabbed onto his own neck, let out a deep roar and rolled his eyes upwards. In just 2 breaths of time, his head tilted and he fell onto the ground. Even his primordial spirit didn't have the chance to jump out, he was instantly killed. One must know that all of the people present were all formidable existences, and any one of them would be an unparalleled existence in the gods' realm. But just now, all of them were instantly killed by Jianghu. Most probably they wouldn't even know how they died. Following the collapse of those people, everyone stood up and looked at the scene with a heavy gaze, not knowing what had happened. At this moment, Mengyao opened her eyes and looked at Yi Hua with her eyebrows tightly knitted. In the history of Heaven Mountain Ascension Tournament, there had never been a case where someone died. After all, this was just a lecture. Yi Hua didn't care about the life and death of those people. After all, Jianghu was more important. Don't make a ruckus. You all go and listen to your lecture. We will do our own thing. We will mind our own business. If you disturb me again, the consequences will be the same as them. Jianghu said coldly. He directly laid his cards on the table. You trash are annoying me. You all are just like flies buzzing around my ears. Mengyao looked at Yi Hua, seemingly asking, is this person your friend? Yi Hua gave a look that said, you don't have to care about this fellow. You can't care about this fellow either. I have to use my strength to deal with him. Donghuang Baiji didn't expect Jianghu to be so abnormal. Everyone shut up. Jianghu's aura is very strong. We can't act rashly now. Let's wait and see what happens first. After all, Goddess Mengyao hasn't even made a move yet. Since someone from Heaven Mountain Ascension Tournament died, you, as Goddess Mengyao, should take care of this matter too, right? However, just as Mengyao wanted to take care of this matter, she was stopped by Yi Hua. Benefactor, you should send someone else. The woman behind you is not good enough. Jianghu added. Seems like he knew that Donghuang Baiji's strength was definitely stronger than Do Fusher's. Yi Hua said faintly, don't worry, I will send the weakest person to fight. I'm looking forward to it. What Jianghu said wasn't a lie. Right now, everyone was listening to the conversation between Yi Hua and Jianghu. They weren't listening to anything else. Chapter 1225. Mengyao was the same. Just what were they doing? Donghuang Qingru was also very puzzled. Are they going to send the weakest one? Why did they fight? Yi Hua shouted, Donghuang Qingru. Donghuang, who was sitting cross-legged not far away, responded softly. Everyone looked at Donghuang Qingru as if they were saying, so you are the weakest existence that he mentioned. Donghuang Qingru was very puzzled. How did I become the weakest? In actuality, Yi Hua didn't know anyone else and only knew this one person. Donghuang asked weakly, what's the matter? Stand up. Donghuang Qingru felt very sullen. Do I have to stand up just because you asked me to? I, Donghuang Qingru, am going to stand up. Bite me. Don't think that you can order people around just because you are strong. He is indeed quite weak. Have you thought it through? Jianghu chuckled. Although he was smiling, the fat on his face made it impossible to tell that he was smiling. Jianghu felt very hurt. That's enough from the two of you. What do you mean by weak? Even I almost believe you. The people who were sitting around felt that Jianghu was indeed weak. It seemed to be the case. Come over. Yihua shouted out once again. Jianghu clenched her fist tightly. I will remember today's humiliation. One day Jianghu will be able to pat my chest and say, if you have the guts, you can humiliate me one more time. But today, you can humiliate me as you wish. Jianghu will not even blink. I swear. Jianghu obediently walked to the side and looked at Dou Fusher. She felt that this person was very evil, especially his eyes. Could it be that his opponent was him? Alright, he was indeed a little weak. Should he change to someone stronger? At this moment Yihua said faintly, we naturally have to be cautious in this competition. The reaction of a cultivator would naturally be extraordinary. Indeed, if a person's reaction speed is fast, he would naturally have an advantage. Jianghu nodded his head, agreeing with what Yihua said. Then for the first round, how about we compete in reaction speed? Yihua said faintly. Sure, how do you want to compete? Yihua stretched out his hand, and two huge hammers could be seen appearing. The number 10 million was printed on it. Looking at the big black hammer and the string of zeros on it, it seems like it is very heavy. Jianghu was a little confused. Jianghu picked up the hammer that was on the ground. Jianghu had thought that the hammer would be very heavy, but I never expected that it would be so light. It was like a feather. Dou Fusher also gripped his hammer, his eyes filled with doubt. Jianghu curiously asked, what does that mean? Yihua briefly explained the rules. When Donghuang Baiji, who was behind Yihua, heard this, she thought to herself, isn't this a little too formidable? You can even play like this. Wasn't it a little too careless? Donghuang Baiji wasn't the only one who felt this way. Everyone else felt the same way as well. Meng Yao didn't understand just what was going on. Jianghu had already understood the rules of the game. This was indeed a result of cultivation, and strength was also very important. This rule seems interesting. Let's begin then, Jianghu said softly, feeling that this was a new idea. Dou Fusher and Jianghu sat cross-legged on the ground with a hammer on their right and an iron pot in the middle. The two of them stared at each other deeply. Of course, Jianghu wouldn't allow herself to lose. Everyone here was from prestigious clans. If she lost, she would lose a lot of face. Therefore he could only win. Yihua shouted out, Jianghu, use a bit more strength and hammer him to death. If Dou Fusher was still conscious, he would definitely feel wronged. Your Honor, you can't keep scamming me like this, right? However, the current floating world Dou did not have such thoughts. He rubbed his hands together, his muscles tensed up as he stared at Jianghu. First of all, he couldn't lose when they stared at each other. Yihua shouted out, let's begin, whoever's hammer breaks first will lose. This is a battle of reaction and strength. Indeed, with their strength, it would be a piece of cake for them to smash this balloon hammer. However, he couldn't smash it, so he had to control his strength. In the eyes of Dou Fusher and Jianghu, it was as if they wanted to hammer the other party to death. They tried their best to control their strength so that the hammer would not explode. No one was in the mood to listen to the lecture anymore. Even Meng Yao was looking at the two of them. The atmosphere at the scene was a little tense and oppressive. Even the palms of the people sitting next to them were sweating. Dou Fusher and Jianghu took a deep breath. It was as if they were going to fight. The two of them shouted in a stern voice. Sure to. Scissors. Sure to. Jianghu's two hands were revealed, and the change in Jianghu's expression could be clearly seen. From nervousness to surprise and then to distorted. That expression of hers seemed to be saying, Brat, you are playing. I'm going to hammer you to death. Right now, a trace of a strange smile appeared on Yihua's face. Dou Fusher was very strong right now, and with Jianghu's current strength, it was impossible for her to win against Dou Fusher. Therefore, I have to add some extra strength to Jianghu's strength. This is not cheating, this is a symbol of strength. Jianghu didn't even know how fast she was. She picked up the hammer that was on her right hand and jumped up. Astral winds howled. That 100000 hammer seemed to carry the aura of death as it smashed down towards Dou Fusher's forehead. Right now, Dou Fusher wanted to cover his forehead with a black wok. However, bang. Before Dou Fusher's hands could even touch his forehead, that black hammer smashed onto Dou Fusher's forehead, and an explosive sound could even be heard. Dou Fusher's forehead could be seen instantly becoming red and swollen. Dong Huang Qingru felt that she was going to explode, and that distorted expression on her face was gradually replaced by a strange smile. Dou Fusher rubbed his forehead, his face tensed up. At this moment Qing Su was frowning slightly. Although it was a frown, it was not visible at all. "You're really amazing. You actually managed to raise this weakling to the same level as you in an instant," Qing Su said faintly. Yi Hua said in a low voice, "Qing Su, don't forget that there are a lot of concepts that I taught you." Qing Su didn't say anything. His tiny eyes seemed to be filled with craftiness. The game continued. Dou Fusher, who had been struck by the hammer, had a serious expression on his face. Coupled with the red swelling on his forehead, he looked a little comical. "Sure too. Scissors. Paper." Dou Fusher was dumbfounded, and his hands immediately reached out to grab the pot. However, this time, Dong Huang Qingru's speed was even faster. Dou Fusher still hadn't gotten the walk. Boom. A cyclone suddenly erupted, and everyone couldn't help but raise their hands to stop it. Dong Huang Qingru had a crazed look on her face. She had controlled her attack very well just now. Her hammer did not break, but it had inflicted heavy damage on him. Take a look, his head was crooked. Dou Fusher clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with savagery. If I win, this person will die." At this moment Yi Hua laughed lightly. "Qing Su, it seems like your plan isn't very good. Haha, the outcome of the battle has yet to be revealed. It isn't like whoever wins will win." Although Qing Su said that, he still felt that his face was being thrown away. End of this chapter. Chapter 1226. This Dou Fusher, do you even know how to play rock paper scissors? Why are you so weak? You let others win twice and this time your head is crooked. You may be shameless, but I am. Dong Huang Baiji had never seen such a game before. If it was an ordinary person, that person might have already turned into minced meat. Yet, Dou Fusher's head was actually only tilted to one side. It seems like this subordinate of Yi Hua is truly very strong. Seeing Dou Fusher being hammered so ruthlessly, the surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air. This was simply too savage. If it was him, that blow just now would have knocked his head off. Meng Yao felt like this wasn't a game at all. She was practically trying to beat her opponent to death. Dong Huang Qingru, who had won 2 rounds in a row, was very excited. This game is really good. When I return to my clan, I can let my disciples play this game. Especially at the moment when he won, he felt like hammering his opponent to death. Felt so good. Dou Fusher slowly raised his head and stared at Dong Huang Qingru, the veins on his forehead bulging. However, the match continued. The two continued. "Sure too. Scissors. Step." Everyone's mouth twitched. That purple-eyed man was too unlucky. Have you never won in rock paper scissors? He actually lost again. Right now, Dong Huang Qingru could skillfully control the strength of the hammer. She didn't break the hammer just now, and she could continue to increase the strength. Dou Fusher stared at his scissors in disbelief. Why did this guy drop 3 rocks in a row? Was this person the devil? That's right, Dong Huang Qingru used 3 rocks, while Dou of the World used 3 scissors. This wasn't just a battle of reaction speed and strength, it was also a battle of intelligence. Qing Su's complexion darkened. "This idiot, can't you change a little? You actually used scissors 3 times, are you Xiaoer?" Yi Hua shook his head. Even if Dou Fusher had become stronger because of Qing Su, his foolish personality is still the same. Dong Huang Baiji shook her head. "This Dou Fusher is truly an idiot, change." Dong Huang Qingru was very proud of herself. It was as if she had already won. She immediately picked up the hammer and smashed it down. This time Dou Fusher did not take the blame. Boom. Dong Huang Qingru's attack was very heavy. Dou Fusher's head was smashed into the ground. Everyone felt the pain just by looking at it. Meng Yao felt that Dong Huang Qingru's strength had increased by a lot. It shouldn't have been like this in the beginning. How did it suddenly increase by so much? Right at this moment, Yi Hua said to Dong Huang Baiji, who was behind him, "How about we go back home and have some fun as well?" "Sure." "It's settled then." With a strange smile on his face, Yi Hua said, "It's settled then." Dong Huang Baiji didn't expect that Yi Hua would be the kind of person who doesn't even recognize his own family when he starts beating you up. He completely doesn't see you as his wife. Dou Fusher pulled his face out of the ground. There was an obvious face print on the ground, and there was even a little bit of blood. Because Dou Fusher's nose was bleeding, it was a waste. His hairstyle was also messed up. His jet cut had been hammered into a pot cut. Looking at Donghuang Qingru, she waved the hammer in her hand as if she was extremely confident. His expression was indeed asking for a beating. At this moment Yi Hua said faintly, "Keep a low profile." "All right." Donghuang Qingru shouted loudly. She slowly sat down and placed the hammer at the side. He didn't expect the feeling of beating someone up to be so satisfying. It was simply a sublimation of the soul. Why didn't he realize this before? Right now, Qing Su felt a bit uncomfortable and shouted out, "Win a round for me." Hearing that, Dou Fusher's expression became grave. However, he still nodded his head. The competition continued. Stone, scissors, cloth, swish. 2 hands appeared. Everyone was astonished. They didn't expect that Dou Fusher was actually a pair of scissors. However, Donghuang Qingru became a piece of cloth. Donghuang Qingru hurriedly picked up the black pot in front of her and placed it on her head with a complacent look on her face. "Is your speed faster than mine?" However, very quickly, everyone discovered that something was different. Dou Fusher's speed wasn't very fast, but his entire body had become malevolent. His expression seemed to be both smiling and crying at the same time. When Donghuang Qingru saw Dou Fusher's expression, she was a bit stupefied. Right now, Dou Fusher's aura gradually became stronger, and a gale formed around his body. Dou Fusher could be seen holding onto the hammer, and with a sinister look on his face, he said, "You are dead for sure." Boom. Intense killing intent was being emitted out from Dou Fusher's body, and Donghuang Qingru felt as if she could see a bloody mouth appearing behind Dou Fusher. That was a demon opening up the gates of hell. Ferocious killing intent engulfed the entire place. Dou Fusher raised his hammer high up, and his deathly gaze seemed to be telling Donghuang Qingru, "I am going to smash you into meat paste." The immense pressure caused Donghuang Qingru to feel that this fellow has gone mad. He would rather smash his hammer into pieces than kill me. This is breaking the rules. Right now, Qing Su had a smile on his face. In actuality, the rules of the game are, whoever lives will die. The one who lives will always be the winner. Yi Hua's expression remained the same, and he appeared to be very calm. However, Donghuang Baiji was different. Dou Fusher actually broke the rules. Yesterday morning, everyone in the surroundings also had a look of astonishment on their faces. If Donghuang Qingru was like this just now, the purple-eyed man would have been smashed into pieces countless times. He is still too young. Right now Meng Yao didn't even know what to say. This is too childish, too careless. As Dou Fusher raised his hammer, Donghuang Qingru felt that she was done for. Boom boom boom. When the hammer landed, the entire heaven mountain seemed to be shaking, and cracks appeared on the enormous compass, seeming as if the compass was about to break apart. Meanwhile, Donghuang Qingru's position had already become a deep pit. The hammer in Dou Fusher's hand had already disappeared, and it was evident that it had been smashed into pieces. This is simply too terrifying. If Dou Fusher's head were to be smashed into pieces, he would definitely turn into meat paste. Donghuang Qingru floated in the air and held onto her chest. This scoundrel. He actually broke the rules just to kill me. At this moment Yi Hua said faintly, "You lost." However, the rules were that whoever's hammer was the first to break would be the one to lose. In order to get rid of Donghuang Qingru, Dou Fusher didn't hesitate to use his hammer to exchange for Donghuang Qingru. However, it was a pity that Donghuang Qingru's speed seemed to be even faster than Dou Fusher's. With a smile on his face, Qing Su said, No, your man ran away." "Then what should we do now?" "Let's count it as a draw." Yi Hua nodded his head and didn't explain too much. Dou Fusher walked back slowly. Donghuang Qingru was feeling great, and thus she sat at the side. Everyone became quiet again. What are these two perverts trying to do? Seems like we still have to step out. Qing Su said faintly. Yi Hua was never one to back down. Nodding his head, he said, "All right, it's our turn. However, let's not compete in strength. How about we compete in something else instead?" "Sure, I was the one who thought of the game just now, so you will be the one to compete in the next game." Yi Hua appeared to be very generous, and thus he let Qing Su come out with the game. Qing Su didn't act courteous and said faintly, "How about we compete in poison?" Yi Hua went into a slight daze. Poison is Qing Su's forte. The so-called compete in poison was to make a poison each and have the other party swallow. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:27. Then they would concoct the antidote. If anyone failed to concoct the antidote, they would die. This was also the most effective method of Qingsu. It was simply an inhumane game. Everyone still didn't understand what he meant by playing with poison. Could it be that he wanted to fight poison with poison? Meng Yao was also puzzled. How was she supposed to play with poison? Yi Hua and Qingsu stood up at the same time, then walked to the center of the square, and the two of them were separated by a distance of 30 meters. At this moment, Yi Hua said faintly, "Poison naturally has to be extracted from a poisonous object. However, if you want to extract poison from a non-poisonous object, it will naturally be difficult." Qingsu agreed with him. He said softly, "That's right. Even if it's not poisonous, it's still poisonous. How can the world distinguish between them?" The people sitting around were confused. What did he mean? They didn't understand. Yi Hua expressed that he didn't understand what Yi Hua said, but he had to pretend that he understood what Yi Hua said. "We'll use the same herbs to make the poison, and then use the same herbs to make the antidote. How about that?" Qingsu liked the suggestion very much. "Of course." Yi Hua nodded his head, then said to Meng Yao, "Prepare 10 types of the most common medicinal herbs for us, and all of them are non-poisonous." Meng Yao was looking forward to it. But before Meng Yao could do anything, someone went to pick the herbs. After all, there were herbs everywhere outside of Sky Mountain. Some were ordinary, some were precious. In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, all 10 types of medicinal herbs were placed in front of Yi Hua and Qingsu. Yi Hua and Qingsu slightly frowned. After all, the clash between the medicinal herbs and the medicinal properties were very particular. Of course, Yi Hua had to be cautious. After all, the other party was Qingsu, an expert in using poison. If Qingsu were to faint after being poisoned by his subordinate, it would be a very shameful thing if this matter were to spread out. Right now, Qingsu was also very serious because he knew how formidable Yi Hua was. All of the 10 medicinal herbs that Yi Hua gave to Qingsu were non-toxic. How was he going to refine poison like this? The people who went out to serve the dishes were also very cunning. They were not ordinary people, and they also had some understanding of medicinal herbs. He knew that there were some medicinal herbs that could not be refined into poison, so he made 10 of them that could not be refined at all. "I'd like to see how you're going to turn non-poisonous into poisonous. If it really works, then you guys are really good." Yi Hua and Qingsu were both a bit solemn. They felt that this wasn't a question that was given to the other party, but rather, it was a question that was given to the two of us. No, to Yi Hua and Qingsu, this kind of thing was a challenge and they had never tried it before. Refining poison was a piece of cake for the two of them. First, he needed a cauldron. As a poison refiner, Qingsu naturally had his own cauldron. This was a different cauldron. With a bang, this strange cauldron fell beside Qingsu. This was a rectangular cauldron furnace. However, most cauldron furnaces were round. The shape was very rare. However, this one was meandering like a river. When Yi Hua saw the cauldron that Qingsu took out, he wasn't surprised at all. It was the same cauldron that Qingsu took out. Great Spring Cauldron. This was the cauldron that Qingsu had been using all along. Yi Hua didn't know where Qingsu got this cauldron from. In the past, Yi Hua wanted to ask Qingsu to change the cauldron, but Qingsu didn't want to change the cauldron, and said that he was used to using it. Yi Hua didn't force Qingsu to change the cauldron. In actuality, right now, Yi Hua felt that this furnace was just like a barbecue grill. By placing a bit of charcoal in the middle of the furnace, it would definitely be able to start a barbecue feast. The others were also a little confused about this barbecue rack. After all, it didn't look like a furnace at all. However, when Yi Hua took out the furnace, everyone was shocked. The moment this furnace was taken out, a delightful fragrance wafted out. Everyone who was sitting here had eaten quite a bit of medicine, and they were already used to the fragrance. However, when they smelled this fragrance, everyone revealed a comfortable expression, and even seemed to be intoxicated. It was as if they had returned to their mother's embrace. Meng Yao was also very shocked. This cauldron should be quite old. In the past, Yi Hua planned to give this cauldron to Qingsu, but Qingsu didn't want it, so he kept it. This cauldron was called Danxia. Its origin was unknown, and Yi Hua picked it up from the roadside. At that time, everyone was very shocked. Who would be able to throw such an amazing cauldron on the roadside? Isn't this person's ambition too big? However, the truth was that Yi Hua really picked it up from the roadside. Qingsu looked towards Danxia and his gaze was a little strange. Why do I feel that this cauldron is very familiar, as if I have seen it somewhere before? Yi Hua noticed Qingsu's gaze. Of course you have seen it before. Even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't want it. With the appearance of the two cauldrons, it could be seen who was strong and who was weak. Yihua definitely had to appear strong and he also had to look handsome and kind. Therefore, most of the people would support Yihua. That damned Baldy, he was so fierce just now. He really killed someone just because of a disagreement. I'm going to curse you to lose. I'm going to curse you to death. This cauldron is not bad, Qing Su said with a smile. Yihua smiled too. I will give it to you, do you want it? I can't afford it, I'm already used to using this cauldron. You should just keep your high-grade cauldron for yourself. After Qing Su finished speaking, he went into a daze. Yihua smiled but didn't say anything. Back then Qing Su also said the same thing. I didn't expect that he still remembered it. Qing Su adjusted his state of mind. The two strange things that happened just now made me very puzzled. Just what is going on? Why did such a thing happen? Donghuang Baiji looked at the two of them. The relationship between the two of them back then and now, it has become like this. Donghuang Qingru looked at the two of them very puzzled. She suddenly realized that the two of them actually looked like good gay friends. That fatty was throwing a tantrum, so this handsome guy is coaxing the fatty. This should be how it should be. What a good gay friend for a lifetime. Right now, the two of them were officially immersed in concocting medicine. And that was looking at the medicinal ingredients. Even weeds have appeared. Are these people serious? If these medicinal ingredients can be used to concoct poison, then this is simply invincible. Yihua deeply wrinkled his brows. To be able to make Yihua frown so deeply, it seems like we have encountered a very difficult problem. Even the poison master Qing Su was tightly wrinkling his brows right now, not daring to relax at all. In the past, Yihua and Qing Su had only exchanged pointers on how to concoct poison. In theory, Yihua was slightly better than Qing Su, but in actual combat, Qing Su was far ahead of Yihua. After all, Yihua wasn't interested in stabbing people in the back, so he didn't want to concoct poison. But right now, how is it possible to concoct poison from these medicinal ingredients in front of me? Not only Yihua was thinking like this, even Qing Su was thinking like this. If I am able to concoct poison, I will go and eat shit. Those disciples who went to gather medicinal ingredients had strange smiles on their faces. If you guys are able to concoct poison, I will go and eat all of the shit at the foot of the mountain. Just when everyone was puzzled, Yihua moved. This move of his, even Qing Su was a bit stupefied. Did this man understand? With a calm look on his face, Yihua weighed the medicinal ingredients in his hand for a bit, then placed them into the cauldron. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Is this fellow serious? A drop of sweat appeared on Qing Su's forehead. In terms of concocting poison, I have never lost before. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:28. With the combination of these medicinal ingredients, one of them will definitely be able to concoct a poison. Just which one will it be? Qing Su slightly looked towards Yihua, seemingly wanting to see which medicinal ingredient Yihua would choose. However, Yihua just happened to raise his head and look over, causing Qing Su to hurriedly lower his head. Everyone saw Yihua's expression. Seems like this fatty is not going to make it. When Donghuang Baiji saw Yihua's smile, she knew that he was bluffing. I reckon that Yihua is just randomly placing the medicinal ingredients to disturb Qing Su's judgment. The more Qing Su's mind is in a mess, the more he won't be able to concentrate. Seems like my wife knows my man the best. Yihua was indeed trying to scare Qing Su. Although Yihua was just bluffing, Yihua still had his own way of thinking. After all, how could I possibly lose to Yihua? He was especially serious about every single battle. If you didn't believe me, you could go and ask the Empress if she was serious about every single battle. Qing Su's gaze swept across the medicinal ingredients, pinching and smelling them, and finally he started. Meanwhile, Yihua's side was already starting to heat up. When concocting medicine, what is important is the heat. When the heat is right, the medicine will naturally be good. Other than the heat, the flame is also an important factor. A ball of white flame could be seen emerging from Yihua's left hand, and a ball of black flame could be seen emerging from his right hand. The black and white flames were trembling like spirits. Everyone knew what this is. Even in the 9 provinces and 5 seas, deviant flames are rare. This man actually has 2 deviant flames. He is simply a nouveau riche. No wonder he is so strong. Qing Su looked at the deviant flame in Yihua's hand and slightly wrinkled his brows. As the deviant flame in Yihua's hand burned, the furnace actually showed a state of 1 black and 1 white. Such a situation caused everyone to exclaim in admiration. Can it be done like this? Meanwhile, Qing Su also started placing the medicinal ingredients. Everyone noticed that Qing Su's actions were very standard, while Yi Hua's actions were rather unpracticed. From this, it could be seen who is the master. Qing Su was also a man who had deviant flame. In his hand was a ball of blue deviant flame. Following Qing Su's shout, the blue flame began burning the barbecue grill. At this moment Yi Hua said faintly, "To be honest, if you bring some barbecue grill over, I think I will be able to get a few skewers." Donghuang Baiji shook her head. This Yi Hua, he only wants to eat all day long. He is currently in the middle of a competition, can't he be a bit more serious? If Yi Hua were to know of Donghuang Baiji's thoughts, he would definitely teach her a lesson. You really have long hair but your knowledge is short. I, the Supreme Overlord, was obviously tricking him. Do you really think that I, the Supreme Overlord, am that free? Right now, Qing Su was completely ignoring Yi Hua and was concentrating on concocting the medicine. Seeing that it was useless, Yi Hua kept his mouth shut. Meng Yao sat in the middle, her brows furrowed. She had all sorts of questions about her big brother, the Emperor. After quite a while, Yi Hua put away the fire. A black and white pill appeared. Everyone felt that based on its color, it was definitely a highly toxic item. Even Donghuang Baiji felt that there was a problem with this pill. Of course, Qing Su had also seen it. His eyes gradually became solemn. Qing Su had also finished concocting the medicine. A black pill floated in the air. Everyone couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Those were non-toxic medicinal ingredients, and the two of them had actually extracted poison from non-toxic medicinal ingredients. The most common poison was black in color. As it advanced, there would be some other colors in the middle of the black, but ultimately it was still black. Even these two pills appeared. He couldn't help but admire these two geniuses. It would truly be a waste of talent to not go and concoct fake medicine. Yi Hua and Qing Su could be seen waving their right hands, and the poison that they concocted flew into each other's hands. And then, without saying a word, they swallowed the poison together. This caused everyone to be stupefied. Donghuang Baiji was stupefied. What is Yi Hua doing? Is he crazy? Meng Yao was dumbfounded. The two of them? Are they courting death? Didn't they say that they were going to compete in concocting poison? Isn't this a competition to see whose poison is higher? Why did the two of you swallow the poison without saying a word? What are the two of you doing? Everyone had a face full of astonishment towards the situation just now. I have never seen someone competing in concocting poison like this. Do you want to speak first or should I? Yi Hua asked faintly. I will speak first. Qing Su said gravely. After swallowing the poison, he felt that his heart was heavy. Taking a deep breath, Qing Su said, "The poison that I concocted just now is a new type of poison. I call it OXX number 2. Yi Hua, I seem to have opened a website like this before. The knowledge that is contained within the website is very rich, it is just like an ocean of learning. I, the Supreme Overlord, have been learning for a month, and I only managed to comprehend half of the ultimate technique. Now that I am using it on my wife, I feel rather comfortable. If you want to learn techniques, come to OXX number 2. His purpose is to make you poop," Qing Su said gravely. In actuality, even after looking at it for a long time, I still don't think that I will be able to concoct a poison. The only poison that I can concoct is probably a laxative. Without a choice, I can only brace myself and concoct a laxative. Yi Hua's expression became grave as he said gravely, "This is a laxative? Of course, furthermore, this is a strong laxative. There is no antidote in these medicinal herbs, so..." Qing Su had a look of "you understand" on his face, as if he had already seen that Yi Hua was going to poop on his pants. Yi Hua's stomach let out a grumble and everyone heard it. "I feel that I am going to take a dump soon. If I don't take a dump soon, I am going to poop on my pants." Yi Hua didn't expect that Qing Su would be so ruthless. He knew that I, the Supreme Overlord, care about my face the most. If I were to poop in front of so many people, I would truly lose all of my face. Furthermore, I indeed feel that I am going to poop soon. This bastard. Now it's your turn to speak. Qing Su was very proud of himself. Go ahead and shit. If that's the case, I will be the winner of this competition. Yi Hua said gravely, "Since you are this vicious, then don't blame me for being heartless. This is not a laxative. This is Indian divine oil." Indian holy oil? Everyone was confused. Donghuang Baiji naturally knew what Indian divine oil was. This shameless fellow actually dared to say it out loud, and furthermore, could it be that Yi Hua had been using it all this time? It's very likely that I shouldn't say it out loud. This kind of thing shouldn't affect the man too much. I'll pretend that I don't know anything in the future. However, this caused the entire team to know that his honor was using Indian divine oil. Do you know what is called black and white? You don't know? Then I'll make it simpler. Do you understand yin and yang intercourse? This is the ability of my deviant fire. Along with Yi Hua's words, everyone was astonished. So he relied on the deviant flame to apply the poison. What a cunning man. It's actually an item that combines yin and yang, damn it. I wonder how the effect will be like. Everyone looked at the same spot where Qing Su was. But Qing Su's stomach was too big, and it was completely impossible for them to see anything. The faces of all the women present became slightly red. I'm simply speechless. Qing Su was astonished. You actually gave me an aphrodisiac. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:29. Same here, let's see who can endure it or who can lose face. Yi Hua was already holding it in. No, I still have to cheat. Qing Su is a man with professional ethics, he definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Yi Hua was naturally a man with principles, he naturally wouldn't cheat in such a situation. Do I look like a man who cheats? That doesn't exist. I will only use my strength to prove everything. Thus, I can hold it in. But what about you, Qing Su? Can you hold it in? This is the Indian divine oil that is made from two kinds of deviant flames. It is colorless and tasteless, the kind that you will want to eat even more after eating it. Right now, Qing Su was already sweating. After all, Qing Su only had the body of an ordinary person. How could he withstand the Indian divine oil? His face began to distort. At this moment, Qing Su turned his head and looked towards Do Fushi. At this moment, Do Fushi, who was already in a daze, trembled. Yi Hua sighed in his heart. Do Fushi, you are really unlucky no matter where you go, sigh. Right now, Yi Hua was also feeling a bit uncomfortable. This laxative is really quite powerful, especially with the addition of deviant flames. I feel like I'm going to jump out. Qing Su wasn't much better off. Just like Yi Hua, his face was already red. Both of them knew that there was no antidote, they could either release the laxative or die from holding it in. Looking at the two's red faces, everyone exclaimed in admiration in their hearts. They can even hold it in. You two are truly the strongest kings, I'm convinced. Expert, how about we stop here? Qing Su said in a low voice. He was already at the edge. Yi Hua had a calm look on his face, but he knew in his heart that he was already at the edge and was about to burst out. Even if I am going to die, I have to smile. Qing Su, how can we stop here? The victor hasn't even been decided yet. Yi Hua said with a smile, appearing to be very relaxed. Just that slightly red face of his seemed to have already been betrayed. Qing Su's face became distorted. Expert, how about we play something else? I know that you can't hold it in anymore. When the time comes, we will lose face together. F***K, I have already hidden it so deeply, but I was still discovered. Alright, then this sentence counts as a draw. Sure. Qing Su finally let out a breath. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared. He must have definitely gone to squat in the toilet. Needless to say, when I squat in the toilet to relieve myself, that kind of pleasure is simply incomparable. Qing Su quickly took out the antidote and swallowed it. Only then did he feel much better. From this matter, it could be seen that Yi Hua and Qing Su were both upright and above-board people, so how could it be possible for them to cheat? Soon, the two of them returned to the scene with a relaxed expression. One was having a good time defecating while the other was having a good time taking pills. Then now, what do you still want to compete in? Yi Hua asked faintly. Qing Su had a dignified look on his face. This man was more powerful than he had imagined. His poison should have some effect on him. What do you want to play? Yi Hua said faintly. How about we have a dream? Dream realm? Qing Su was a little confused. Yes, a dreamlike game of hide-and-seek. On the other hand, Qing Su felt that this was interesting. Without any fear, Qing Su directly agreed to Qing Su's suggestion. Yi Hua was about to give Qing Su a thumbs up. You don't even need to use your brain. If I, the Supreme Overlord, wanted to plot against you, I would have succeeded very quickly. At this moment, everyone was very curious and wanted to hear what the rules were. Yi Hua smiled and did not say anything. Are you ready? Yi Hua asked lightly. Come. Qing Su said faintly and slowly closed his eyes. Yi Hua nodded his head and slowly closed his eyes. Qing Su felt that he had entered into an illusion, and he suddenly opened his eyes. The scene that appeared in front of him caused Qing Su to go into a daze. Qing Su slowly stretched out his hand. His fingers were very slender and had the appearance of a woman. Qing Su touched his own face. I'm not fat at all, what's going on? Looking at the surroundings, there was a total of 7 people standing there. Among them, there was a skeleton that was standing at the center position, and the skeleton seemed very cold and arrogant. Who designed this position? I, Qing Su, am not convinced. But why do these people look so familiar? As if I have known them before. Not far away there was also a total of 100 plus people standing there, and they looked very aggressive. However, on my side there is only a total of 8 people. It is obvious that I am a little lacking. But what the hell is there to be afraid of? I only have one word, and that is fight. Qing Su felt that his body was not under his control, and when he really rushed out, the first thing he felt was, isn't this too sloppy? Aren't they going to discuss the plan first? Fighting brainlessly will cause people to die. But right now he had already rushed out, and when Qing Su saw that there was a twin-tailed girl that was hit by the skeleton, not knowing why, Qing Su felt very angry in his heart. I just want to kill all of these people in front of me. Qing Su discovered that not only was he very angry, everyone else was also very angry. That skeleton that was carrying that little girl seemed to be very sad, and this kind of sadness seemed to be transmitted to everyone. Qing Su felt that he had been infected by the skeleton, and he just wanted to fight to the death with these trash and kill them all. Qing Su saw that the number of people around him was getting lesser and lesser, and seeing them fall down just like that, Qing Su felt very uncomfortable in his heart. In the end, Qing Su saw a skeleton standing in front of him, and there were 60 plus overlords standing in front of him. Qing Su heard the skeleton saying faintly, "See you in the next life." After finished speaking, the skeleton rushed out. Looking at the corpses around him, Qing Su was confused. What is going on? Why do I feel so sad in my heart? Back then, why did Qing Su kill so many people? It was because everyone realized that they had fallen into a trap, and thus they chose to fight to protect Qing Su. Qing Su was the only attacker, but after Yi Hua fell down, Qing Su, who had no one to protect him, died. Therefore, this was also the reason why Qing Su wanted to create a powerful servant. Subconsciously, Qing Su did so to protect himself. Qing Su watched as his body fell down, but he was powerless to do anything. He could even see those overlords cheering and celebrating their victory. In the end, the overlords placed the corpses together and burned them with deviant fire. They were burned just like that. Qing Su suddenly heard a voice ring out, and a skeleton walked over from the side. Isn't this that skeleton from just now? Why is he here? Did he die from waiting for so long? Right now, Qing Su didn't even know if he was in reality or if he was in a dream. I am with you, Yi Hua said faintly, then transformed back into his human form. Qing Su looked at Yi Hua blankly. You? Just who are you? Don't you have any idea who I am? These are all the memories in your mind and you should be very clear about them. Yi Hua said gravely. Impossible. How can there be such things in my mind? It is definitely you. Qing Su, did you see that? Back then, everyone died in battle and I have to bear a lot of responsibility. Yi Hua let out a long sigh. Although it is a pity, the heavens have opened their eyes and didn't let everyone leave. Qing Su didn't say anything and looked at those overlords. Those faces seemed very familiar to me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1230. Qing Su, you are the most special existence in the team, so don't disappoint everyone. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and patted on Qing Su's shoulder. Qing Su still found it a bit hard to believe all of this. He looked at the man in front of him. Is what he said true or false? Follow me and give it a try. When the time comes, we will know if what I said is true or false. Yi Hua said indifferently. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to deal with Qing Su, so he had to use another method. Qing Su looked at the scene. This familiar feeling won't lie. Seeing that Qing Su had tacitly agreed, Yi Hua finally let out a sigh of relief. Of course, he didn't expect that he would be able to deal with Qing Su just by having him recall what happened back then. After exiting the dreamland, Yi Hua and Qing Su opened their eyes. Everyone was curious. Who would win between the two? Qing Su didn't say anything and sat in the crowd. Yi Hua did the same and sat in the crowd. Everyone was a little confused. What was going on? Why didn't they say something? Who won and who lost in the end? To actually not announce it, this is too suspenseful. Even Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but ask softly, Yi Hua, just who won? Other than myself, do you think there is any other possibility? Yi Hua said softly. This Qing Su is a bit hard to deal with. Right now, I only need to dig out those precious fragments. Next up, I need even stronger evidence. If not, when this Qing Su goes crazy, I will have no choice but to deal with him. Yihua, what do you plan to do now? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. Yihua said softly, one step at a time. After this is over, I will go over to the Eastern Emperor clan and take a look at the situation. You're really going over? Dong Huang Baiji cried out in surprise. What, do you think that I am joking? I, the Supreme Overlord, have never joked around. Yihua said gravely. The words that I, the Supreme Overlord, have always been serious. Dong Huang Baiji said softly, Yihua, I understand your intention, but I really don't want to cause unnecessary trouble. I also don't want to look into what happened in the past. In actuality, Dong Huang Baiji was still worried that Yihua would cause the crowd to attack him again. I allow you to take back what you just said, then reorganize your words and say it one more time. Yihua said gravely. Yihua sure has a way of lecturing people. The surrounding students were all frightened to the point that they were trembling. I really don't know what to do. Dong Huang Baiji said helplessly. Yihua laughed lightly. If you have a way, this seat of mine will be yours. Who cares about your seat? I'm just worried that something will happen to you. Baiji, you think too highly of those people. It's just a matter of waving their hands. After that, I want your father to get justice. Or other elders. After hearing what Yihua said, Dong Huang Baiji felt very moved. Although I don't know the truth of the matter, it is truly great that Yihua has such thoughts. When the time comes, I'll have to think of a way to act cool. Yihua muttered. Originally, Dong Huang Baiji was still very touched by Yihua's words, but she was immediately pulled back to reality. Dong Huang Qingru, come here, I want to ask you a few questions. Great God, please ask. Dong Huang Qingru shouted out respectfully. However, I, Dong Huang Qingru, swear that if I admit defeat now, it will be a sacrifice for the future. A person can only grow while being ridiculed. If no one forces you, you wouldn't even know how strong your own ability is. Yihua asked lightly, is there any scandal in your Eastern Emperor family? How is that possible? Our Eastern Emperor family is the benchmark. Dong Huang Qingru said with a righteous look on her face. Dong Huang Qingru didn't dare to say it. There are so many people here, if she were to expose it, where would the face of the Eastern Emperor family be? Yihua asked faintly, Dong Huang Qingru, right now is a good opportunity for you to atone for your crimes, don't test my patience. About that, great God, it's not that I don't want to say it, I only found out about it recently. Dong Huang Qingru was also afraid. This man would beat someone up just because of a single sentence, and furthermore he would beat someone to death. What is it? Actually, I don't know the exact details. The floor leader asked me to keep it a secret. He said that it's a big secret of the Eastern Royal Clan. Dong Huang Qingru said sneakily. Looking at her, one could tell that she was talking about a secret. Right now, even Dong Huang Baiji was curious as to what exactly had happened. Then let's go now. Yihua was already impatient to go and stir up some trouble. The main thing was that with Qing Su by his side, Qing Su might be able to evoke some of his bad memories. Dong Huang said softly, Great God, I can't do that. I have to wait until Mount Tianshan reaches the ascendant stage before I go back. Yihua went silent for a moment, then felt that it was fine. Then let's play for another 7 days. This time I, the Supreme Overlord, will be able to think about how to take revenge for the Empress. That scene must have been extremely comfortable. Sure, then I will wait for another 7 days. Yihua said faintly. The person sitting next to him was puzzled. What did he mean by waiting for 7 days? What was this man trying to do? Don't tell me you're itching all over if you don't do anything for a day? Dong Huang Qingru was very scared now. If she brought the great god back to her family, she would definitely be beaten up. But if he didn't bring her along, he would be beaten up right now. Moreover, this woman was of pure bloodline. However, the level leader had said that no information could be leaked. If not, the East Royal family would become a laughing stock. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. She didn't have the mood to continue. Qing Su was also very hesitant. The scene played in his mind over and over again. Furthermore, it felt more and more familiar. His figure was about to overlap with that person's. Was he really one of them? This skeleton didn't lie to me? Qing Su didn't dare to come to a conclusion, so he decided to observe the situation first. 7 days passed by very quickly. Yihua brought along Dong Huang Baiji and walked around Heavenly Mountain. It was one thing for Yihua to listen to the lectures, but after listening to the lectures, Yihua felt like sleeping. Looking at these people leaving one after another, Yihua's mood was pretty good. But one didn't feel very good. Mr. Yi, why don't you not go? Great God, this lady is right. Why don't we go another day? Dong Huang Qingru said hurriedly. If he really went, it would be the rhythm of the world changing. Yi Hua's gaze turned cold, and the latter instantly became speechless. At this moment, Meng Yao leisurely walked over and asked in a low voice, "Are we really going to the East royal family?" Yi Hua looked at Meng Yao and revealed out a kind smile. "Yes. Do you need help?" Meng Yao said lightly. This caused Yi Hua to go into a daze. However, he felt that this was a good thing. This meant that there was still hope for Yi Juetian and that he didn't die. When Dong Huang Qingru heard what Yi Hua said, she was very stupefied. "You are God Meng Yao, how can you just do whatever you want to do? Don't you have any sense of propriety at all? How can this do? This is too careless." End of this chapter. Chapter 1231. There's no need for that, I will be able to settle this matter myself. With a "you understand" smile on his face, Yi Hua stretched out his hand and patted on Meng Yao's shoulder. Towards Yi Hua's smile, Meng Yao naturally understood. It was naturally Yi Juetian. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. She could only softly say, "Then be careful. The Donghuang clan is not to be trifled with." Donghuang Qingru wanted to add that exalted goddess Meng Yao was right. Don't go and cause trouble. It wasn't just Donghuang Qingru, even Wan Wan wanted to say that they really shouldn't go there. After all, there was a slim chance of survival. "Meng Yao, do you think I'm a pushover? You should know me very well." Yi Hua retracted his smile and said faintly. Meng Yao chuckled, "Then I'll be going back." Yi Hua nodded his head and Meng Yao disappeared from the spot. However, Donghuang Qingru and Wan Wan were very confused. Why did goddess Meng Yao seem to be so obedient? Just who was this man? The disciples of the Donghuang clan were all puzzled. All the disciples present knew that this man was going to cause trouble in their territory. According to the normal procedure, he should have tried his best to stop them, even to the extent of fighting to the death. Only then would he be able to display the demeanor of a great family. But, however, right now I don't have that thought at all. I feel that they were on the same side. There was no need to fight at all. That's right, they were all on the same side. According to the head guard of the vestibule, that woman had an authentic bloodline. This was a huge matter that would shake the entire 9 prefectures and 5 seas. What are you waiting for? Let's go. It has been a very long time since I last did something, and today I can finally do something. Thus, Yi Hua brought along his wife and subordinates and set off. Even though Qing Su still admitted to it, Lin Fan could feel that he was slowly changing, as though he had realized the truth. As for Battle Fusher, it's best that I don't turn back to normal right now. No, wait, this is the normal Battle Fusher, the previous one is the fake Battle Fusher. Donghuang Qingru was helpless. She opened the teleportation gate that led directly to the Eastern Emperor clan above the Azure Ocean. Right now, Donghuang Baiji was a bit nervous. I don't know how I should face this. If everything that I said is real. In that case, his hometown should be on the other side of the portal. Donghuang Baiji became rash. Yi Hua seemed to be able to sense Donghuang Baiji's unusual movements, and he stretched out his hand and held onto Donghuang Baiji's hand, giving her encouragement. "With me by your side, even if the Heavenly King is here, he won't be able to touch a single hair on your head." The group of people stepped into the teleportation formation, and Yi Hua could only feel his vision turning dark. A beautiful scene appeared in front of Donghuang Baiji. This place is truly beautiful. Even Qing Su was attracted by the scene in front of him. Everyone appeared on the first level, and the Eastern Emperor clan was on top of the rainbow clouds, ascending in a stair-like manner. Therefore, from this angle, it just so happened that one could see the Eastern Emperor clan level by level, and it was as gorgeous as a rainbow. Donghuang Baiji felt that it was very romantic. If it was at night, it would definitely make people intoxicated. Indeed, in the Donghuang clan, the night was the most enchanting. "We await the head guard of the vestibule." The disciple who was guarding at the side shouted out respectfully. Although he noticed Yi Hua and the others because Donghuang Qingru was the one who brought them in, he didn't say anything. Donghuang Qingru didn't know what to say. "Didn't you want to create trouble? Hurry up and create trouble, I have already made up my mind." Even the disciple who was guarding at the side was thinking the same. "It doesn't matter if I die sooner or later, I might as well watch how you guys create trouble in the Eastern Emperor clan." However, after waiting for a long time, Donghuang Qingru still didn't see Yi Hua kill them. Yi Hua was also very confused. "Doesn't it hurt when I'm kneeling? Why are you looking at me? Is there something wrong with you?" Dong Huang Qingru seemed to be able to understand Yi Hua's gaze and said in a low voice, "This person is here to create trouble. Call your boss out." Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji were both stupefied. What is this Dong Huang Qingru trying to do? Why does she make it seem as if we are on the same side? You are someone from that side. Qing Su and Dou Fusher stood at the back. The two of them were like autistic children, not saying anything and not caring about anything. Head guard of the vestibule, what do you mean by this? The disciple who was kneeling on the ground asked confusedly. Yi Hua said faintly, do you still not understand? Your head guard of the vestibule has already turned traitor. Dong Huang Qingru, creating something out of nothing. This is creating something out of nothing. My Dong Huang Qingru's heart can be seen by the sun and moon. I am also loyal and devoted to the Dong Huang family. How could I possibly turn traitor? No, it should be said that I, Dong Huang Qingru, only support the original. Mere pirated goods, go and die. I feel that Dong Huang Baiji is the original. If she isn't the original, then she must be a pirated one. I, Dong Huang Qingru, can only blame myself for making an error of judgment. Swish, swish, swish. All of the disciples in the surroundings drew out their swords. However, the disciples beside Yi Hua drew out their swords on reflex. A real hammer. Dong Huang Qingru felt a bit dizzy and she really wanted to fall down. Head guard of the vestibule. You actually brought along your disciples to rebel. And you even dared to come back. What guts you have. Yi Hua said faintly, this person's guts are indeed big, you have to call your boss over, if not, you will be killed. Dong Huang Qingru's heart was in pain. Why did I have to meet this man? Ever since I met this man, I have never had a good life. I have been humiliated by him every single day. Although it wasn't physically, it was still mentally. The disciples in the surroundings felt that what Yi Hua said was right, and two of them hurriedly went to look for the floor leader. After all, if the head guard betrayed them, they still have to call for the floor leader. This is the rule. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. I feel that this is too fast, there isn't any foreshadowing at all, it will give people a kind of unpleasant feeling. This is a little troublesome. Not long later, Dong Huang Fei, who was the floor leader, arrived. Yi Hua looked at Dong Huang Fei, and Dong Huang Fei directly looked at Yi Hua with a grave gaze. This man is very dangerous. Dong Huang Qingru. What are you doing? Dong Huang Fei shouted out gravely. Dong Huang Qingru knew that she had no chance and said respectfully, floor leader, this person is looking for you. After finished speaking, she even blinked her eyes. Dong Huang Fei shouted out, Dong Huang Qingru. Why are you blinking your eyes at me? Dong Huang Qingru. Yi Hua didn't pay attention to Dong Huang Fei and asked faintly, Dong Huang Fei, right? Who are you? Dong Huang Fei asked in a low voice. For the time being, he didn't explode, but he seemed to be very vigilant. Yi Hua pushed onto Dong Huang Baiji. Wife, it is your turn to act. Dong Huang Baiji took a deep breath, then said gravely, my name is Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Fei finally knew. Why did Dong Huang Qingru blink her eyes just now? Could it be that this woman is the one? Something bad has happened. Something big is going to happen. This damn Dong Huang Qingru, why did you bring them here? We are going to die together. End of this chapter. Chapter 1232. Yi Hua saw the struggle within Dong Huang Fei's eyes, then said with a slight smile, Dong Huang Fei, you don't have to be nervous, what about my wife? She has the purest bloodline of Dong Huang Fei, and the reason why I came over this time is to seek justice. A pure bloodline. These words exploded in the ears of all the disciples. How was this possible? Other than the patriarch, who else could have the purest bloodline? You guys don't seem to believe me. Baiji, show them what purity is. Wait. Dong Huang Fei shouted. Why did he have to stop them? If Dong Huang Baiji were to release her aura in this place, everyone would definitely know about it. He couldn't take the blame for this. His mind was in a mess now and he had to think it through properly. Wan was so scared that she was trembling. They actually caused trouble like this. It was too careless. Why do we have to wait? Yi Hua asked gravely. Why don't we talk in private? Dong Huang Fei did not want to blow up this matter, and he wanted to settle it himself. Initially, Yi Hua wanted to go straight to the heart of the matter, but he suddenly thought, it's good for me to chat with them. The most important thing is to know what exactly is going on. It was better to figure it out. Yi Hua nodded his head, and only then did Dong Huang Fei let out a breath of relief. Please. Dong Huang Fei appeared to be slightly more polite. Yi Hua was also the kind of person who wouldn't slap a smiling face. Thus, he brought along his wife and subordinates and walked over. Dong Huang Qingru was stunned. She couldn't help but shout, "Great God? What about me?" "Follow me," Yi Hua said faintly. "This person is still somewhat useful, I will keep him by my side for the time being." Dong Huang Qingru exclaimed that she was lucky that she wasn't betrayed by the great god. Dong Huang Fei didn't say anything, and he immediately sealed off the inner layer. Dong Huang Fei sat at the center of the hall, and Yi Hua didn't care too much about it and sat at the side. Dong Huang Qingru served the tea. Yes. Everyone just sat there and no one spoke. Dong Huang Fei sized up these people. Other than this man and woman, there were 2 other men and a woman. The woman seemed to be quite frightened. She was even trembling. As for the 2 men, one was fat and the other was skinny. They looked like they had lost their minds. Therefore, there were only these 2 people who had battle power. That woman seems to be very strong. As for this man, it felt dangerous, but it also felt like he was a gigolo. He must have gotten close to this woman to give him advice, in order to achieve his own dirty plan. What a vicious man. It seemed like he still had to start with this woman. Looking at her unwilling look, she was forced by this man. Dong Huang Baiji? Yes. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head. Dong Huang Fei said with a steady tone, "Miss Baiji, don't be afraid. Since you are here, no one will dare to do anything to you." Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji? This sentence should be reversed. It should be that we won't do anything to you, right? Looking at Yi Hua's shocked gaze, Dong Huang Fei sneered in his heart. Were you still able to control the situation in the past? Miss Baiji, if you have any difficulties you can tell me. Yi Hua said gravely, "What exactly are you talking about?" "I want to ask you. How could my wife have a pure bloodline? Call your family head out." Dong Huang Fei frowned and laughed. "Don't be impatient, I will naturally inform the clan master. However, I still need to ask a few questions." "Of course, I'm not asking you." Yi Hua didn't say anything. "Excuse me?" Dong Huang Baiji asked. "You are a member of the East Emperor family, why are you wandering outside?" Dong Huang Fei asked confusedly. Without waiting for Dong Huang Baiji to say anything, Yi Hua said faintly, "I will have to ask you all about this. Why was my wife framed?" Dong Huang Fei wished that he could give Yi Hua a kick. However, he didn't have a clear understanding of Yi Hua's strength, so he didn't dare to act recklessly. "Miss Baiji, what is your purpose for coming here this time?" Dong Huang Fei asked lightly. Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice, "My main purpose for coming here this time is..." Before Dong Huang Baiji finished speaking, Yi Hua added, "Acting cool." Dong Huang Baiji. Everyone, Dong Huang Fei's mind was filled with 10,000 curses. "Can't we just have a pleasant conversation? You stinky man. What are you interrupting for? Do you believe that I won't interrupt you?" Yi Hua said gravely, "Now, I will ask you a question." Dong Huang Fei waved his hand. "I want to know. The biggest secret of your East Emperor family is related to my woman. Why was she controlled by someone? If it wasn't for me appearing and displaying a heroic feat, my woman would have been living in an abyss of suffering." Hearing Yi Hua's words, some people became stupefied. One felt that Dong Huang Baiji was so blessed to have a man who loved her so deeply. Meanwhile, Dong Huang Baiji wanted to curse out in her heart. "Heroic feat, I was carelessly tricked by you for the first time and you call that heroic feat? You are lying through your teeth." Dong Huang Fei wrinkled his brows. "Being controlled by someone? I really don't know about that. After all, those are the secrets of the higher-ups." "What? You aren't going to say it?" Yi Hua asked coldly. "I don't know either." "Baiji, transform and show him." Dong Huang Fei hurriedly said, "Wait a minute, don't get agitated, let's talk things out." "Go ahead and say it then." Dong Huang Baiji was very curious too. At this moment, Dong Huang Qingru came over with a cup of tea. After the tea was served, Dong Huang Qingru stood at the side and seemed like she was going to sit down. "You go out and keep watch." Dong Huang Qingru went into a daze for a moment, then expressed that I also want to know this kind of gossip. Thus she directly looked towards Yi Hua. Yi Hua ignored him. The latter felt helpless. This person was burning the bridge after crossing it. He wasn't even willing to share gossip. After Dong Huang Qingru left, Dong Huang Fei took a sip of tea. "Do you really want to know? If you are truly pure, do you know how big of an impression this will have?" Dong Huang Fei asked in a deep voice. Yi Hua was instantly in a bad mood and said eerily, "What does this have to do with me? If you've done something wrong, stand at attention. You are really unreasonable. Right now, the 9 states and 5 seas are all peaceful because of the checks and balances of the powerful clan heads. Once something happens, the checks and balances will be broken. When that time comes, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. Are you going to turn the entire world into hell for your personal gain? Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji went into a daze. Is it that serious? Were you kidding? Yi Hua snorted coldly. Do you think that I will believe you just because you said that? The Eastern Royal Clan is the leader of all the clans. If there's any negative news, it would be a disgrace to the entire clan. It would also be a devastating blow to the Eastern Royal Clan. Don't tell me you want to take over a clan that has suffered a blow? After hearing that, Yi Hua asked gravely, tell me right now, what exactly is the matter that caused the Eastern Royal Clan to suffer such a disgrace? Sai, why do you have to be so stubborn? Qing Su, open his mouth for me. Yi Hua couldn't take it anymore. This fellow is asking for a beating. End of this chapter. Chapter 1233. Qing Su had a dazed look on his face as if he had fallen into a memory. This made Yi Hua a bit awkward. I asked you to make a move and this is your expression? However, Donghuang Fei seemed to be shocked. I know that these people aren't easy to deal with, but I can't let anything happen to them in my territory. Actually, this is just a legend. As for the truth, I'm not very clear about it either. Donghuang Fei was a bit scared. His intuition told him that only by being scared would he be safe. This was similar to Donghuang Qingru. If they were to cower, they would be able to see the world. Speak. Yi Hua was very curious about what exactly was going on. Donghuang Baiji also wanted to know. No matter if it was a legend or not, she still wanted to know. Donghuang Fei let out a light sigh. Since you all want to know, I will speak about it. However, I still hope that you all don't implicate me. I naturally won't implicate you. Yi Hua said indifferently. As for what other people were thinking, he didn't know. Donghuang Fei was thinking in his heart, I don't believe you all look like the type that doesn't keep your promises. This matter has to start from a very long time ago. At that time I was still the head guard of the rear courtyard. Donghuang Fei said solemnly. Yi Hua nodded his head. The rear courtyard is not bad, it is much more interesting than the front courtyard. Donghuang Fei said seriously, indeed the rear courtyard is more important. Let's get to the main point, stop talking about the front courtyard and the rear courtyard. Yi Hua said in a low voice. Isn't this what you were talking about? Donghuang Baiji couldn't take it anymore. Can you all stop talking about the front courtyard and the rear courtyard? Yi Hua leaned on the chair, took out a cigarette and lit it up. Donghuang Fei could feel that Donghuang Baiji's aura was indeed very pure. Miss Baiji, please calm down. Donghuang Fei had to calm down Donghuang Baiji. If someone were to discover this aura, they would be in big trouble. TMD, are you going to speak or not? Yi Hua couldn't take it anymore. Just what is going on? You've been talking nonsense for half a day. Speak, be quiet for a bit, let me recall properly. Can you all not be so noisy? At this moment, Qing Su couldn't take it anymore and said. It must be said that everyone present was very annoyed. Yi Hua, who was annoyed, his gaze turned cold. Qing Su. The latter pursed his lips and did not say anything. From the looks of it, the current Yi Hua is able to intimidate Qing Su. At the very least, Qing Su won't talk back. From the looks of it, in Qing Su's subconsciousness, Qing Su has begun to acknowledge Yi Hua's memories. Donghuang Fei pursed his lips. I have no choice but to say it. I advise you to speak the truth, if not. Yi Hua gave a stern warning. Donghuang Fei was furious. How many years have I been a floor manager? He was actually being threatened today. Moreover, I was threatened in my own territory. If it wasn't for that woman, I wouldn't have such a bad temper. This matter has to start from a very long time ago. At that time, I was still the head of the rear courtyard guards. Yi Hua couldn't help but say, you have already said this sentence just now. Yi Hua, can you not interrupt others? Yi Hua, yeah, don't interrupt me and mess up my memory. Alright, continue speaking. Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Hua's mood was a bit bad. However, Donghuang Fei continued speaking. This matter has to start from a very long time ago. At that time, I was still the head of the rear courtyard guards. In the entire Donghuang family, there were 2 outstanding people. These 2 people were the legitimate descendants of the family, and the position of the family head would definitely be given to one of them. Hearing till here, Yihua understood that the plot of the story should be that the two people were fighting for the position of the family head, and then one of them was framed. And that framed person should be on Donghuang Baiji's side. Donghuang Baiji seemed to be thinking the same thing as well. Qing Su, who had a dull look on his face, seemed to have started listening to the story as well. Even Donghuang Qingru, who was standing outside, was eavesdropping on the story. These two people, one of them is called Donghuang Shini, and the other one is the current family head, Donghuang Jishang. Yihua looked towards Donghuang Baiji, indicating that she should be related to that Donghuang Shini. Perhaps she might be his descendant, but as for how many generations, Yihua wasn't sure. Back then, when the two of them fought for the position of the family master, it caused a huge commotion. In the end, Donghuang Jishang obtained the position of the family master, and Donghuang Shen-yi went missing. That's all. After Donghuang Fei finished speaking, he heaved a sigh of relief. That's all? Yihua asked in confusion. That's all. Donghuang Fei said seriously. *CKME. Qing Su, get him. All right. Qing Su also couldn't help but want to do it. He was simply whetting his appetite and didn't say a single word about the main point. Wait. Donghuang Fei said hurriedly. This damned fatty looks just like an ordinary person, but I have a feeling that this fellow's gaze. No, I can't see his eyes at all, but I keep on feeling that this fellow is very evil. But what exactly happened in between? Qing Su angrily asked. He hated it when people didn't finish their sentences. Donghuang Fei tightly furrowed his brows. This fat brother, you really can't say this. This is a scandal. I will die if I say it out loud. You're not telling me? I'm going to die now. Qing Su was not afraid at all. Yihua nodded his head. Indeed, if you don't tell me, you are going to die now. Donghuang Fei felt that there were two gods sitting in front of him. Although the fatty looked just like an ordinary person, the imposing manner he gave off was simply even more ferocious than the family head. This imposing manner couldn't be faked. Without accumulating it for a long time, it was impossible to achieve it. That's right. Donghuang Baiji added. Yihua rubbed onto Donghuang Baiji's head. That's right. Donghuang Fei was very helpless as he said in a low voice, Don't tell anyone, I am the one who told you all about this. You all are using your lives to threaten me. Yihua has never seen such a cowardly person before. Aren't you known as the floor manager? Are you all this cowardly? First of all, I have to declare my position. Whether or not this matter is true or false, you all can only use it as a reference. Donghuang Fei paused for a moment, then continued, I only heard that the current family head cuckolded Donghuang Shini. Yihua, Donghuang Baiji, Qing Su. This gossip is too fierce. Cuckolding someone, this is simply the most ferocious revenge. You all don't have to look at me like this, there is no evidence for this. Donghuang Fei hurriedly added. Yihua asked curiously, Are the two of them blood-related brothers? Donghuang Fei nodded his head. That's right, the current family head is the younger brother. Awesome. The younger brother cuckolded the older brother, and the older brother disappeared in the end. Then Donghuang Baiji. Yihua looked at Donghuang Baiji blankly. Could it be? Donghuang Baiji was also a bit stupefied right now. If this is really the case, then I am the descendant of the current family head? Donghuang Baiji was a bit unable to accept this. I want to be alone. After finished speaking, Donghuang Baiji walked out of the hall. End of this chapter. Chapter 1234. Donghuang Qingru, who was standing outside, was also stupefied. The current family head, Donghuang Jieshang, cuckolded his own brother. If this matter were to be known by the people of the 9 provinces and 5 seas, the Donghuang family would become a laughing stock. No wonder the level manager is so cautious, something big is going to happen. Yihua didn't chase after them. Right now, Donghuang Baiji indeed needs to calm down. I came here to cause trouble and act cool, but in the end, it became a family search. Then what should Donghuang Baiji call the current family head? According to what Donghuang Baiji said, his father had already passed away, perhaps he should be called Grandpa. Fortunately, it's not his father, that would be so awkward. Yihua didn't know how to comfort his wife right now. If I knew that there would be such a trap, I should have come here first to check things out. How can the Empress accept this? If it was me, I would also be at a loss. Speaking of which, I have never seen the Empress's father before. According to Donghuang Baiji, the Empress's father seemed to have died from anger? How tough is the life of the Donghuang family, how can they die from anger? There seems to be something fishy about this. Not right. This doesn't feel right. Perhaps this family head is Donghuang Baiji's father. If I were to deal with this matter, I would definitely hand my daughter over to the person I trust the most to prevent her from being implicated. This makes sense. My deduction is very likely to be true. If that's the case, that marquis should be the person who is secretly helping the empress, hiding Donghuang Baiji on Earth to prevent her from being discovered. I'm truly a genius. Actually, I haven't finished speaking. Donghuang Fei said embarrassedly. Yihua and Qing Su went into a daze. Donghuang Fei could be heard continuing. According to the rumors, Donghuang Shini was cuckolded first. That's why the current family head took revenge. Yihua, Qing Su, Do Fusher, who was at the side, didn't even hear what Donghuang Fei said. As for Wan Wan, she was already shocked. I didn't expect that there would be such a scandal within a big family. If this kind of news were to be leaked out, the Donghuang family's reputation would definitely be gone. It would only become a joke after a meal. When Yihua heard what Donghuang Baiji said, he immediately overturned his previous conjecture. Just whose descendant is Donghuang Baiji? This will forever be a mystery. Fortunately, Donghuang Baiji walked out of the room. If she had heard what Yihua said just now, she would have definitely fainted. Now there was only Bodhisattva's blessing. This was not at the level of a father. Otherwise it would be really awkward. Are there any more? Yihua asked curiously. This Donghuang family is too chaotic. I hope that this rumor is false. There is one more thing. Donghuang Fei said solemnly. What is it? Qing Su asked immediately. Yihua glared at him fiercely. As a subordinate, you shouldn't talk too much. Qing Su pursed his lips and remained silent. What is it? Donghuang Fei looked at the surroundings and said in a low voice. At that time, none of them had a wife or fiancé. Right now Yihua was a bit confused. It was the same for Qing Su. Damn, is it asexual reproduction? With just a single sentence, this fellow had completely overturned all of Yihua's previous plans. Right now, Yihua was completely unable to understand what was going on. However, this aroused Yihua's desire to know the inside story even more. Where's the family head? I'll go and pout my lips. Qing Su said solemnly. He had to know the inside story. Yihua did not say anything. I indeed need to know the inside story, my woman. Which side were they on? Don't get too excited. Recently, the Eastern Emperor clan is organizing a youth competition. If you guys were to directly cause trouble, the consequences would be dire. Have you heard of the Immortal Shrine? Donghuang Fei said solemnly. Yihua went into a daze, then looked towards Wan Wan. Wan Wan felt guilty. Qing Su also knew that this indestructible shrine was really that strong? Even the Donghuang clan was afraid of him? I have heard of it, what about it? Yihua asked curiously. Donghuang Fei said solemnly, this palace master has been suppressed by the patriarchs of several big clans. That's why he has been peaceful for thousands of years. Recently, this group of people has been acting strangely again. I'm afraid they are trying to cause trouble. So? Yihua asked. That's why we can't complicate the issue now. The hall master is afraid that if the ceiling formation disappears, it will bring about destruction. That's why he wants you guys to calm down and have a good chat. Misunderstandings can be resolved. There's no need to fight and kill each other. This palace master is so powerful? Yihua was a bit curious. Right now, I am lacking a strong opponent. That palace master is able to make Wei Chang betray his faction. That palace master definitely has a very terrifying strength. I really want to have a look at him. That's not right. Wasn't it said that the hall master was sealing it? He is indeed very powerful. He has countless experts under him. Yihua asked, did you just say that the hall master is within the seal? That's right. All of the family patriarchs will work together to reinforce the seal every month. If not, the seal will be broken. The seal is filled with the aura of all of the family patriarchs. If something were to happen to the family patriarch, the consequences, I dare not imagine. Yihua took a look at Qing Su, and Qing Su gave Yihua a look of wanting to cause trouble. As expected of my subordinate, you never forget to cause trouble. I can let this evil out to play with. I want to let Wei Chang see how trash the master that you chose is. When the time comes, you will kneel in front of me and repent, and I won't forgive you. What do you mean by the youngster assembly that you mentioned just now? Yihua asked. Oh, it means that the most outstanding disciple will be chosen from among the disciples to be groomed. Donghuang Ji will be attending as well? Yihua asked curiously. Of course, the number one disciple will be groomed personally by the family patriarch. Yi Hua nodded his head, then looked at Dong Huang Baiji's back view and asked, "Can you give me an identity?" "You are thinking?" Dong Huang Fei seemed to be able to sense what Yi Hua wanted to do. "I'm just thinking." Dong Huang Fei pondered for a moment, then nodded his head. "Forget it, in any case I will be killed by you all." "I will guarantee that you won't die," Yi Hua said faintly. "If I want someone to die, that person will definitely die. But if I want someone to live, even if all four of his limbs are broken, that person will still be able to live." "Really?" "Of course." "Then let me tell you another secret. F***CK. I suddenly don't want to protect him anymore, this is simply not trustworthy." "What secret?" Dong Huang Fei said in a low voice. "The family patriarch has an uncle." The corner of Yi Hua and Qing Su's mouth twitched slightly. Could it be that this uncle cuckolded us brothers? F***CK. How can these people be so perverted? "It's not what you all think. The family patriarch's uncle is called Dong Huang Ci. He is the one with the highest seniority in the entire Dong Huang family, and his strength is also the strongest. You all have to be careful. I feel that Dong Huang Ci is not a good person," Dong Huang Fei warned. Yi Hua felt that he had gained a lot from this trip. "Now it is time for me to display my strength. Let everyone fear the power of the deity. Tremble in fear." End of chapter. Chapter 1235. Is this Dong Huang Ji preparing to usurp the position of the family master? Yi Hua asked curiously. Dong Huang Fei shook his head. "You are wrong. Dong Huang Ji loves the East Emperor a lot. He should be doting on the East Emperor." Yi Hua couldn't help but start imagining the scene of an old man doting on another old man. That scene is so unbearable, I don't want to see that scene. "So this Dong Huang Ji is East Emperor Ji's backing?" Yi Hua asked. Dong Huang Fei shook his head. "You are wrong. On the contrary, the family master doesn't really care about his uncle." "There is such a thing?" Yi Hua was curious. This uncle dotes on his nephew, and the nephew doesn't care about his uncle. This is so weird. This big family is very messy. As subordinates we can't be too gossipy, right? Yi Hua seemed to be able to understand. "Those subordinates of mine aren't the 8 trigram supreme overlord. They will instantly know everything that happens. They even know that I am quarreling with my wife. How can you believe that?" "Can you arrange it?" Yi Hua asked faintly. "Yes, then can you all be my subordinates? After all, you all understand." Yi Hua nodded his head. "I shall be the Empress's subordinate for the time being. I shall go and take a look at this youngsters' assembly, then I shall explore this Dong Huang family." "All right, I will go and arrange it then. You all can rest here tonight. I will bring you all to the Orange Building tomorrow morning." Yi Hua let out a breath, then stood up and walked towards Dong Huang Baiji. "My Empress is a little. I don't even know what to say. This relationship is too complicated." Yi Hua didn't say anything and he immediately hugged onto the Empress. "What's wrong? Are you still imagining things?" Yi Hua asked lightly. His tone was very gentle. Dong Huang Baiji seemed very heavy. "Yi Hua, do you think that I am a product of power struggles?" "No, you are a product of me." Dong Huang Baiji. "Yi Hua, is this how you comfort people?" Dong Huang Baiji said angrily. "Baiji, your starting point is wrong. You are an independent person no matter where you come from. Look at Lai Gu and the others. Is their birth very glorious? That's obviously not the case, but it can't stop us from living a happy life, so what you're thinking now is unnecessary." Dong Huang Baiji felt that Yi Hua's words were somewhat reasonable, but she felt that it was a bit crooked. "Then, if I was really an illegitimate daughter, would you despise me?" Dong Huang Baiji turned around and looked towards Yi Hua, feeling extremely wronged. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. "From the moment I tricked you onto my bed, I no longer despise you." Dong Huang Baiji, can't you just comfort me? "Hateful," Dong Huang Baiji said petulantly. "Let's just forget about it. It would already be good if I don't anger myself to death." He was so angry that he wanted to laugh. "Look, you're smiling." "I don't want to talk to you for even a minute." Dong Huang Baiji snorted, then walked to the flowers and plants at the side, and her expression became serious once again. Yi Hua said helplessly. When he turned his head around and took a look at Qing Su, he discovered that Qing Su had become much more docile. This can be considered as a good thing. Now that he had solved Baiji's problem and lured Wei Chang's master out, everything would be fine. Orange Tower. This was the highest sacred palace in the Dong Huang family, and it was a place that all of the disciples wanted to go to. However, it wasn't that easy to enter the Orange Tower. One had to go through layers upon layers of selections to enter the Orange Tower. However, the disciples that were able to enter the Orange Tower all held important positions, and they had to dedicate their entire lives to the Donghuang family. Sounds like they were brainwashed. Alright, in actuality they were brainwashed. The higher the position, the more serious the brainwashing would be. Just look at Donghuang Fei and Donghuang Qingru, they were brainwashed without any need to be brainwashed. They would gossip and even directly admit defeat, not even wanting to fight. At least they had some self-awareness. The Orange Tower was the tallest tower, and one would be able to see the outer space from here. The night was truly very beautiful. In actuality, the Orange Tower was the tallest tower that the family had lived in. One would be able to have a panoramic view of the entire Donghuang family, as well as the mysterious and vast universe. Being a family head truly feels great. On the top floor of the tall tower, there was a round table, and two figures were currently sitting cross-legged across a small table. In a blink of an eye, one of them was Donghuang Jishang, and the other was Jianghu, the family head of the Jiang family. I say, Jishang, I'm going back. Why are you still holding me back? Jianghu drank the wine, and he had no intention of leaving at all. This was simply taking advantage of him, and yet he was still pretending to be obedient. Donghuang Jishang sipped the wine, frowning as he looked at the stars. What? I heard some news just now and I suddenly stopped talking. Jianghu asked curiously. Just now, a man in black suddenly appeared and whispered a few words into Donghuang Jishang's ear. Jianghu didn't want to eavesdrop after all, it was a matter of another family. Donghuang Jishang laughed, and he seemed very helpless and a little bitter. This news caught me off guard, Donghuang Jishang said in a low voice. Do you want me to give you some advice? It's useless. Advice won't work, Donghuang Jishang said in a low voice, and he seemed very strange. This made Jianghu even more curious. Hence, Jianghu joked, could it be that your illegitimate daughter came to look for you? Donghuang Jishang was stunned, and then he said, I have no children in my life, so how can I have an illegitimate daughter? You are thinking too much. Then why are you so worried? This has something to do with my big brother. Jianghu became solemn, and he asked in a low voice, what does it have to do with your big brother? Back then, I fought with my big brother for the position of the clan leader. You should know about this, right? Yes, legend has it that you made your big brother a cuckold. Is this true? It seemed that no matter how strong one was, one's heart for gossip would always be there. Donghuang Jishang looked at Jianghu from the corner of his eyes. You also know that it is a legend. Can you still believe it? Then what exactly happened? Why did your big brother go missing? Jianghu was already in suspense. This matter was one of the highest secrets of the 9 provinces and 5 seas. Donghuang Jishang said indifferently, dead. I knew it. You must have killed him. Then you took his sister-in-law for yourself. You are a pervert. Can't we talk properly? I'm just joking, don't be so nervous, Jianghu said as he took a sip of wine. As for how he died, I can't tell you. This is an important matter that involves the clan, Donghuang Jishang said solemnly. Jianghu could understand. Actually, your big brother, Donghuang Shini, was a genius. Unfortunately, he was killed by you. The struggle for the position of clan leader is really terrifying. Jianghu sighed. It was the same for his side. The position of clan leader was a position that was stained with blood. End of this chapter. Chapter 1236. Donghuang Jishang sighed. That's right. Big brother's wisdom and knowledge are better than mine, what a pity? Jianghu was startled. You seem to have understood. Your big brother. Change. Am I right? Jianghu asked. Donghuang Jishang stopped talking. Jianghu said, seems like your big brother. He was absorbed by imperishable shrines people and then you guys killed him, am I right? Whatever you think, Donghuang Jishang said indifferently. The more he explained, the more complicated it would be. Jianghu did not dwell on this question. What else could he do? But Jishang, the seal has been a bit strange recently. Seems like there is an expert helping you, Jianghu said solemnly. Donghuang Jishang nodded. I called you here today to discuss something. Then why did you only call me? To be on good terms with you. The other two are very arrogant. Actually, I am also very arrogant, Jianghu added. Donghuang Jishang smiled. If you were to be seen like this, your reputation would be lost. Reputation is fleeting to me. I've already thought it through. If not for this seal, I would not be bothered to be the family master. Act. Can you act more like it? Hee, you can see through me. Let's talk about proper business. How are we going to deal with this seal? Strengthen it? Jianghu said seriously. He was worried about the seal. We can only strengthen it. There is no other way. But we still need a backup plan. Once the seal is broken, we need a way to deal with it. Although I don't like those two old men, I think we still need to gather them and discuss how to deal with it. Dong Huangji Shang said. One person's strength was not enough. That palace master was very strong. This is the only way. Wait for me to deal with this matter. What is it? You will know tomorrow, Dong Huangji Shang said. Dong Huangji Shang obviously knew about Dong Huang Baiji's arrival. Everything that happened in the Dong Huang family had spies. How could Dong Huang Baiji's appearance be hidden? Still keeping me in suspense? Alright then, I'll stay and see what's going on. It's a little troublesome. I don't know where that uncle of mine found a servant recently. This person's yin qi is very heavy, and just looking at him makes me feel uncomfortable. Dong Huangji Shang was a little annoyed. Jianghu warned, I think that uncle of yours is quite dangerous. You have to be careful or else he might kill you. I know I will. Dong Huangji Shang said gravely. He did not have any good impression of his uncle at all. He even felt that his uncle was a smiling tiger. On the surface he seemed to support him a lot, but in reality, she just wanted him to be a puppet, just like the time when she congratulated ascended goddess Meng Yao. She didn't even tell him anything and just sent an eccentric person to deliver the congratulatory gift. She didn't even put him in her eyes. However, given their seniority, he could not be too calculative about it. Otherwise, others might say that there was something wrong with him as the clan head. The two continued to sit on the top floor, drinking the fragrant wine, and not saying a word. However, Yihua was currently chatting with Qing Su. However, Yihua wasn't drinking any wine nor was he drinking any water. Yihua was currently smoking. Even Qing Su loved to smoke, and he was immediately led astray by Yihua. Did you gain any enlightenment during these few days? Yihua breathed out a mouthful of green smoke. The green smoke dispersed in the air, and it gave off a rather beautiful feeling. Qing Su's hand gesture of holding the cigarette was a little rusty, and it could be seen that he was a newbie. Even the way he looked when he was smoking was very awkward, and Yihua wanted to extinguish his cigarette. This is simply wasting my food. I have to ask Qinya to bring back a few boxes of food for me. However, I don't expect Qinya to bring back a box of food for me. Qing Su spread out the cigarette ash and in the end the ash even landed on his pants. I did gain some enlightenment. Qing Su said in a low voice. That was indeed the case. What did you gain? Gain no brains? Yihua, are you saying that I have no brains? No, I'm not talking about you alone, I'm talking about everyone. Yihua almost choked on his own cigarette. This bastard. I'm getting a bit carried away. However, what Qing Su said makes sense. When you are around, everyone has no brains. That fellow Wei Chang betrayed us? Qing Su asked curiously. Along with Qing Su's question, Yihua became a bit happy. You know about Wei Chang? How can I not remember about that man-eating monster? Qing Su let out a breath. Seems like you have remembered about him. More or less. Then why aren't you bowing? What are you standing there for? Qing Su rolled his eyes. Do you have to be so quick? If I had known, I would have said it. I didn't remember anything. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and move. You are so fat, you need to move to lose weight. Qing Su really wanted to throw out a handful of poison. Qing Su had no choice but to stand up, but he was pressed down by Yihua. Forget it, with your body size if you were to bow you would look like a meatball. The corner of Qing Su's mouth twitched slightly. Your Honor, don't mess around. Welcome back to this sovereign's team. Thank you, Your Honor. Yihua was finally gratified. At least, Qing Su, this fellow is normal. Sigh, it is actually perfect now. Yihua let out a long sigh. Your Honor, this indestructible shrine seems to be a bit powerful. It is better for us to be more cautious. Qing Su warned. Yihua wrinkled his brows. To be able to make Wei Chang change sides, this indestructible shrine is indeed quite powerful. Furthermore, from what Dong Huang Fei said today, this indestructible shrine does have some capabilities. That's right, that's why, Your Honor, being a bit more cautious is not a bad thing. Yihua said faintly. Qing Su, sometimes being cautious is a good thing, but if you are overly cautious, that would be fear. What Your Honor said is extremely true, but you also said the same thing in the past. Yihua, Damn it, is this Qing Su here to expose my past? And he is even here to expose my dark history? Can you not mention the past? Yi Hua said gravely. You are asking for a beating. All right, Your Honor, that kind of thing in the past was indeed not very good. It was a bit embarrassing. If you continue talking about it, you are going to embarrass yourself. Your Honor, please forgive me. Yi Hua let out a breath. He was a bit angered. You should deal with Do Fushi first. Look at you, treating someone else like a lab rat. Fortunately, that person didn't become a fool. Yi Hua said gravely. Qing Su went into a daze for a moment, then said, That's not it, Your Honor. That person was very foolish in the past. I made him become smarter. All right. Yi Hua felt that Qing Su was right too. But no matter what, Do Fushi still tastes better than before. Qing Su didn't say anything. He waved his hand, and Do Fushi, who was standing at the side, could be seen gradually waking up, and his pair of purple eyes could be seen becoming normal. It has been raining continuously. My house collapsed. I am sorry. End of chapter. Chapter 1237. Do Fushi looked at His Honor, then looked at Qing Su, who was at the side. Do Fushi went into a daze for about half a second, and the expression on his face slowly turned from shock to grievance. Afterward, Yi Hua fiercely hugged onto Yi Hua's thigh. Your Honor, this person. He humiliated me. I am so miserable. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows and looked towards Qing Su. I am starting to regret my decision. Can I change back to how I was just now? It should be possible. It'll just take some time. Qing Su nodded and said seriously. Your Honor, don't. I am your loyal subordinate. Do Fushi was scared out of his wits. Actually, in the few days that he had been a puppet, he still had his own consciousness. Every day he had to take pills and bathe in bugs. It was simply disgusting. All right, be serious. Stand up. Yi Hua said faintly. You are a big man. Why are you crying? Your wife, soul separation, is the one who is a man. For you, she even went to train herself and almost died. Do Fushi felt wronged and immediately stood behind Yi Hua with a vigilant look on his face. To this fatty, Yi Hua was just like a demon. Your Honor, are we going to take action tomorrow? Qing Su asked. If nothing unexpected happens, we will be taking action soon. Yi Hua nodded his head. Everything that the Donghuang family owes me, I have to pay them back. Of course, Qing Su wouldn't object. He loved big scenes, and it was especially comfortable to stir up trouble. Rest early. There should be a good show tomorrow. Yes. Yi Hua extinguished the cigarette, then walked into the room. Today the Empress actually went to sleep early. She actually doesn't plan to serve me in bed? In the past few days, I have not even had the time to take revenge against those who have killed me. After taking off his clothes, Yi Hua squeezed into the blanket and hugged onto Donghuang Baiji's soft body. In his heart, Yi Hua was feeling very happy. An outstanding woman like Donghuang Baiji will only be hugged by me. Don't mess around, I don't want to. Donghuang Baiji said in a low voice. Donghuang Baiji was not in the mood today. Of course, Yi Hua knew that Yi Hua was actually just going to hug her for a bit. In the end, the Empress thought that I was going to make a move on her. Do I, the Supreme Overlord, look like that kind of person? He had really underestimated the Supreme Overlord. Baiji, the truth will be revealed tomorrow. Yi Hua said tenderly. The truth is no longer important. That's good. Is that okay? Donghuang Baiji hammered Yi Hua's head unhappily. All right, your head. I'm not in a good mood unless you coax me. Sob, 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 Donghuang Baiji. Following Yi Hua's whining, Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but laugh out loud. This bad fellow, when he starts acting cute, no one is able to stop him. Yi Hua, don't learn from us and become a whining monster. Donghuang Baiji didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, she was still very happy in her heart. After all, in order to make me happy, Yi Hua was willing to be a whining monster. Yi Hua also felt that it was very unnatural, but for the sake of their relationship he still had to. Is that okay now? You? I'm really convinced. Which man is like you? Be gentler, you're hurting me. I haven't touched you yet. Pain your head. Yi Hua flicked onto the Empress's forehead. The Empress pouted. But, Baiji, this pouting is no longer suitable for you. This is the action of a little girl, you are already past that age. The Empress wore a dumbfounded expression. Yi Hua, go make a bed on the floor. Sleep. Don't touch me. Looking at the Empress holding onto the blanket and rolling herself up, Yi Hua had a dumbfounded expression on his face. Is there something wrong with what I said just now? Baiji, what I said just now was to teach you to become a bit more mature, not to be so childish. Donghuang Baiji, look at our Ali, she likes to pout from time to time but you can't, you are already old. Yihua. If it weren't for us, you would be a bachelor for the rest of your life. How is that possible? With just a wave of my hand, there would be a whole bunch of women. Then go and look for a whole bunch of women, don't look for me anymore. Donghuang Baiji was about to go crazy from anger. Too lousy, not interested. Yihua said solemnly. Donghuang Baiji was so depressed that the whites of her eyes floated out. This bastard, he actually dares to say such words in front of my own wife. If it was any other woman they would have already started fighting with you. Seeing that the Empress didn't speak anymore, Yihua felt a bit bored. The night is long and I am unable to fall asleep. I can only take action silently. Wife. Yihua called out lightly. What? I love you. Donghuang Baiji, not knowing why, when Donghuang Baiji heard Yihua say these 3 words, she felt like laughing. This fellow can anger you to death and at the same time he can also make you laugh to death. Don't think that just because you say a few nice words I will let you play with me. Donghuang Baiji said angrily. Baiji, I can't fall asleep. Other than playing with you, I have no other entertainment. Scram. Donghuang Baiji felt that her blood pressure was a bit high. Sooner or later she will be angered to the point that she will have a stroke. Yihua couldn't understand why she would be laughing a second ago, and then get angry the next second. I have never been like this before. Wife. Don't talk. So boring. Go and masturbate. Yihua became silent. Donghuang Baiji was a bit puzzled. This fellow is actually not talking? Could it be that he is angry? Don't think that just because you are angry I will go and coax you. Wife, did you ever let pigs go when you were young? Yihua suddenly asked. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes and said unhappily, I didn't. Wife, you are so perverted, you didn't even let pigs go. Donghuang Baiji went into a daze for a moment, then flipped over and pressed onto Yihua. Yihua, you tricked me. Ah. Yihua let out a hearty laugh. Tricking my wife is quite interesting. You are still laughing, I am going to hammer you to death. Yihua grabbed onto the Empress's hands, then flipped over beautifully, pressed onto her, and kissed her passionately and caressed her. And then everything happened naturally. I am an expert at picking up girls. Not willing? That doesn't exist. If you want to learn more from me, then all the big sisters will flock to you. The next morning Yihua and Donghuang Baiji woke up early, and Yihua changed into his guard uniform. When a person becomes handsome, he will look good in anything he wears. Donghuang Baiji specially dressed up today, and her beauty was simply suffocatingly beautiful. Yihua felt proud just by looking at Donghuang Baiji. I even enjoyed myself last night. Donghuang Baiji looked at Yihua's expression. How can I not know what he is thinking? He is definitely thinking that I just had fun with this woman last night. How bold and unrestrained she is. From the looks of it, the Empress understands Yihua very well. After walking out of the door, Wanwan walked over while wearing the maid uniform, and Qing Su and Dou Fusher were also wearing the guard uniform. Donghuang Fei and Donghuang Qingru walked over slowly. End of chapter. Chapter 1238. Miss Baiji, this is the command plate. You can directly head to the orange building with this command plate. I won't be accompanying you all up, I understand. Donghuang Fei squeezed out a smile. Of course he wouldn't be leaving with Yihua and the others. What should I do if I get implicated? I will be in deep trouble. So, I understand. Donghuang Baiji accepted the command medallion and thanked Yihua. Donghuang Baiji appeared to be very polite. Yihua liked this aspect of the Empress very much, and the children were also taught very well. With the token in hand, the journey was smooth. Wanwan, who was in the team, was already sweating profusely. These people are trying to stir up trouble. How dare they walk into someone else's territory? What if that floor leader betrays us? How can your hearts be so big? On the other hand, Yihua was hoping that Donghuang Fei would go and inform on them, and after that he and the others would be completely surrounded, and after that he would be able to start acting cool. Let the people of the Donghuang clan know that this sovereign's woman is not someone they can afford to offend. Stop them. Right when Yihua finished thinking, an angry shout rang out from behind him, and then a group of people surrounded him. There were at least 10,000 people gathered above him, and there were also several thousand people surrounding him. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Yihua was a little stupefied. I was just thinking about it blindly just now and it actually succeeded? Then all of you are forcing me to act pretentiously. What should I say? Right now, as long as His Honor says a word, all the people around Qingsu would be killed in an instant. It can be said that they wouldn't even know how they died. Baiji, what do you want to do? Yihua asked faintly. After all, this was Donghuang's territory, and it could be considered the Empress's maiden home. It was better to be safe. Donghuang Baiji stared ahead. She did not expect that she would encounter such a thing right after she came out. Yihua. Donghuang Baiji called out lightly. What happened? My legs are a little weak. What's wrong? Yihua asked worriedly. It's all because of you. How dare you ask me what's wrong? Yihua, let me do it. Yihua stood in front of Donghuang Baiji and protected her behind him. According to the usual practice, Yihua had to take out a stick of cigarette and light it up. If not, he would feel that something was missing. Just as Yihua was about to speak, everyone kneeled down. This time Yihua was completely stupefied. What is going on? Are you guys kneeling to me? Or kneel to the Empress? Right now, Donghuang Baiji was also feeling very tempted. Why do I feel like they are kneeling down to me? Could it be that I have already been exposed so quickly? But none of them were. Greetings, great uncle. Tens of thousands of people shouted in unison. That kind of majesty immediately swept across the entire place. Wan's face was already pale from fright. Why did something happen right after I just walked out of the door? I told you not to come, but now the grand uncle of the Donghuang clan is here. That was Donghuang Zizi. Within the entire Donghuang clan, he was the one with the most seniority. Two people walked over from afar, walking in the air with a majestic aura. Even before they arrived, their auras had already arrived. Yihua slightly narrowed his eyes and looked at the two people who were walking over. That old man should be Donghuang Ci. As for the young man beside the old man? Then I don't know him. Wait, this shouldn't be called a man, right? Feels like, it doesn't seem like a man. This man who was not a man was, of course, Donghuang. However, Donghuang Ying had never thought that he would see his empress in such an occasion. Empress is even more beautiful than before. I, Donghuang Ying, am the man who is going to marry Empress. No one is as noble as I, Donghuang Ying. This man. It's this man again. Back then, when Ying family showed off his might and made Ying family become his lackey, my father didn't dare to disobey, but I dared to. Empress is my Donghuang Ying's woman. No one should even think about tainting her. Who will? Who will? Empress, why don't you look at me? It's me. Back then you wanted to marry me. Why didn't you keep your words? Furthermore, you don't even recognize me now? Donghuang Baiji naturally didn't recognize Donghuang Ying. Back then she only said it in a fit of pique and she didn't even meet Donghuang Ying. Fortunately, the betrothal gift was robbed, and the one who robbed it was even Death Mage. I really didn't expect this. Yihua of course wouldn't recognize Death Mage. I have only heard of such a person, but I have never seen him before. If Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were here, they would definitely have seen Death Mage before. After all, they were the ones who stepped on the lamp wick and broke it. Right now, Qing Su was very excited. The fight is finally going to start. Dou Fushi felt that it was time to show off his strength. Although he had been a little disgusted recently, his strength had definitely increased tremendously. At the moment, Jianghu and the East Emperor Pole were in the Orange Tower. Patriarch. Grand Uncle, bring some people and surround those people. A black-clothed man suddenly appeared and shouted respectfully. Donghuang Jishang's expression froze. Got it. The man in black disappeared in an instant. He was really competent. Your uncle was faster than you, Jianghu said in a deep voice. Yeah. He seems to be in a hurry. Who is that person? Donghuang Ji sighed deeply. You will know when the time comes. Let's go first. Things have already come to this and you still won't speak? Is there any meaning to this? Jianghu hurriedly chased after him. He felt that the Donghuang clan was about to undergo a huge change. At the venue, Donghuang Ci looked at Donghuang Baiji, and Donghuang Baiji looked at Donghuang Ci. As for Yihua, he took a look at Donghuang Ci, then looked at Donghuang Baiji. He felt that the two of them didn't look alike at all. This Donghuang was too ugly, but when he looked at the Empress, she was simply too beautiful. He couldn't even be compared to a single strand of the Empress's hair. What is your name? Donghuang Ci asked faintly. His tone contained a heavenly encompassing aura, causing others to have no choice but to speak the truth. Everyone could feel the might contained within his tone, and they lowered their heads slightly and remained silent. Dong Huang Baiji was the same as well. Qing Su was already used to seeing Dong Huang Baiji. Right now, Do Fushi was also very strong, and he was able to casually resist Dong Huang Baiji's attacks. However, Wan Wan was a bit unable to resist. Yi Hua had no choice but to protect Wan Wan. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, "My name is Dong Huang Baiji." Dong Huang Xi's long face didn't have any fluctuations. Dong Huang Baiji. Welcome home. Following this sentence, both Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji were stupefied. The disciples and the surroundings were stupefied. Just what is going on? They mustered such a large force, and in the end they only surrounded Dong Huang Baiji for a bit. Yi Hua was filled with hatred. I should have made a ruckus earlier, but right now Dong Huang Ji's tone is so low, where would I find a good excuse? However, right at this moment, Dong Huang Ji appeared. Meanwhile, Jianghu hid within the crowd and didn't appear together with Dong Huang Ji to prevent others from gossiping about him. Greetings, family head. Everyone kneeled down and greeted Dong Huang Ci. Dong Huang Ji waved his hand, then cupped his hands towards Dong Huang Ci and said, "Uncle, why did you come out today?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1239. So it's the patriarch. Dong Huang said softly. However, the tone of his voice was a little strange. Especially the way he addressed Lin Fan as family head. It was as if he was addressing a child. It wasn't very respectful. At the very least, that was what Yi Hua heard. Yi Hua also saw the legendary family head. He couldn't be counted as an old man. At most, he could be counted as someone who had just stepped into the ranks of old men. However, to these people, age was nothing. However, Yi Hua was very curious as to which of these two people would have a relationship with the Empress. Whose child was the Empress? "Uncle, what are you doing?" Dong Huang Ji took a look at Dong Huang Baiji and he was clearly a bit stunned. Of course it's to welcome the younger generation back home. Baiji, don't you think so? Dong Huang Baiji looked at Dong Huang Baiji and said with a slight smile. Yi Hua felt that this smile didn't seem to be a real smile, and it belonged to the kind where the skin and flesh didn't move. Dong Huang Baiji didn't feel very good, and thus she didn't say anything. However, the surrounding disciples were all astonished. They thought that they were here to capture the enemy, but who would have thought that they were here to welcome someone? Dong Huang did not mind this time and said softly, "Child, I know you have a lot of questions in your heart. I will tell you. Uncle, you don't have to worry about this." Dong Huang Ji Shang smiled. Yi Hua could clearly feel that there was a problem with this. According to the development of the plot, this East Emperor Ji shouldn't be a good person, and this East Emperor Ji Shang shouldn't be a good person either. Seems like only this Supreme One is a good one. My Empress is really... Although Yi Hua was thinking like this, he felt that between the two of them, one of them would definitely want to harm Dong Huang Yi. Especially this Dong Huang Yi. With just a glance, Dong Huang Yi could tell that he wasn't a good person. Beside him was a guy who was neither a man nor a woman. How can that be? No matter what, this is a big matter of the Eastern royal family. We cannot look down on it. Dong Huang chuckled, appearing quite strange. Dong Huang Ji frowned for a moment, then he smiled and said, "Why don't we talk inside?" This time, Dong Huang Baiji didn't pay any attention to those words and said to Dong Huang Baiji, "Child, can you display your abilities?" Everyone was confused. Show what? Of course, it was to display the pure bloodline of Dong Huang. Dong Huang Baiji didn't know whether she should do this or not. Yi Hua seemed to be able to sense the bewilderment that the Empress was feeling. Turning his head around, Yi Hua said with a smile, "Let them see what is called purity." Looking at Yi Hua's smile, Dong Huang Baiji felt that her confidence had returned, and she wasn't that afraid anymore. Nodding her head, Dong Huang Baiji regained her confidence, and an imposing aura was being emitted out from the Empress body. This is what an Empress should be like. Everyone was able to sense the change in Dong Huang Baiji. This was a familiar aura, very pure. So pure to the point that Dong Huang Ji and Dong Huang Ji Shang frowned. This purity was above theirs. A gigantic three-legged golden crow could be seen appearing behind Dong Huang Baiji's back. The golden wings of the crow spread open, and boundless might engulfed the entire world. This is the real three-legged golden crow. Everyone knelt down. The three-legged golden crow seemed to have its own intelligence. It raised its head slightly and enjoyed everyone's worship. Dong Huang Ji and Dong Huang Ji were incomparably shocked as well. This bloodline was purer than anyone else's. However, when it appeared on a woman, it was unimaginable. Dong Huang Ying, who was at the side, had a look of worship on his face. I am her fiancé. It's like you can only kneel down and worship me. Dong Huang was even fantasizing that in the future, he would be able to stand beside Dong Huang Baiji and enjoy these ants kneeling down and worshipping him. I, Dong Huang, will not hesitate to marry the empress. I, Dong Huang, love this kind of feeling. You people, you can only kneel down and worship my women. My eyesight is so sharp. Among the millions and millions of women, I was able to find someone as beautiful as Dong Huang Baiji. Furthermore, she even has such an identity. I'm truly lucky. Dong Huang Baiji kept the image and there was not much expression on her face. Dong Huangji appeared to be a bit grave as he tightly wrinkled his brows. Dong Huangji calmed himself down and said with a smile, as expected of the purest bloodline, Dong Huang Baiji, the entire Dong Huang family is proud of you. Dong Huang Baiji. All of the disciples shouted out. Why do I feel that this Dong Huangji seems to be chasing Dong Huangji Shang off the stage? From what Dong Huangji said just now, the purest bloodline means that Dong Huangji Shang is even purer than Dong Huangji Shang. And to say that the entire Dong Huang family is proud of the empress, isn't this just making Dong Huang Baiji's identity high? Was this to pave the way for him to become the next patriarch? This Dong Huangji's schemes are very deep. With just a single sentence, he managed to make everyone approve of this person who had just entered the clan. Dong Huang Baiji appeared to be very calm and collected. After all, she had been following Yi Hua, and what kind of big scenes had she not seen before? A scene like this could only be considered as child's play. All I want to do is to find out about my own identity. What family head? I don't really care about it, it's the same for anyone to be the family head. Child, come with me. Dong Huang said lightly, then turned around and walked towards the building that was at the side of the orange building. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it. After all, the house seemed to be in the clouds. Yi Hua wanted to see what kind of tricks Dong Huang Baiji was going to play this time. Thus, he brought along Dong Huang Baiji and followed after Dong Huang Baiji. Qing Su and Dou Fusher followed suit. Wan had been so scared that her legs had turned to jelly, but she hadn't expected the situation to change like this. Jianghu, who was within the crowd, was very astonished. This woman? He had never heard of such a pure bloodline before. It seemed that she was an illegitimate daughter. This is practically a scandal. It seemed like the Dong Huang clan was going to become the main topic. Who would have thought? Dong Huang Jishang helplessly followed suit. Amidst the clouds, an ordinary courtyard, flowers, plants, an ordinary pavilion, an ordinary house, everything was so simple and unadorned. It's a bit simple and unadorned. Dong Huang Jishang said lightly with an indifferent look on his face. Dong Huang would occasionally sneak a peek at the empress. I really want to hold on to that little hand of mine, but now is not the time. Yi Hua seemed to be able to feel that this androgynous person was currently sneaking a peek at his wife. Dong Huang Baiji was also able to feel that this person was occasionally sneaking a peek at her. Dong Huang Baiji really wanted to dig out his eyes, because she could see possession within his gaze. However, Dong Huang Baiji still wanted to know where exactly did I come from. My father. Is he my biological father? And my mother that I have never seen before. Everyone walked into the house and discovered that the furnishings within the house were even more simple and unadorned. A bed, a table and a few stools. Dong Huang, go and pour some tea. Yes. Dong Huang replied respectfully, then left. Dong Huang Jishang looked towards his nephew and said lightly, Jishang, aren't you going to host the youngsters' assembly? It's still early. Dong Huang Jishang said indifferently. End of chapter. Chapter 1240. Dong Huangji nodded his head. Sit down then. All right, uncle. Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji sat down, while the others stood at the side. At this moment, Dong Huangji asked curiously, Child, this is my husband. Oh good. Dong Huangji looked at Yi Hua and praised. Yi Hua remained silent. Whether I am good or not, it is not up to others to judge. Dong Huangji sized up Yi Hua and discovered that this man is a bit arrogant. If Yi Hua isn't arrogant, would he still be called Yi Hua? After pausing for a while, Dong Huangji looked at Dong Huang Baiji and said, Child, it has been hard on you for so many years. Dong Huang Baiji didn't know why, but why do I feel that? I feel that this is the love of an elder? That tone of hers is doting? What is going on? For even Yi Hua to have such a feeling, just what exactly is going on? Me? Who is it? Dong Huang Baiji asked gravely. Dong Huangji smiled faintly. Child, do you still remember your childhood? Childhood? Dong Huang Baiji went into a daze. My childhood? My childhood? Dong Huang Baiji was a bit confused. What was my childhood? Seeing that Dong Huang Baiji's expression was a bit weird, Yihua asked gravely, what's wrong? Yihua, my childhood? I can't remember. You can't remember? Yihua asked confusedly. Dong Huang Baiji indeed couldn't remember her childhood. It seemed that ever since she could remember she had the appearance of an adult. He had never thought about it, but after Dong Huang's question he couldn't think about it anymore. Yihua asked gravely, Baiji, where did you grow up? I don't know. I seem to have always. Looking at Dong Huang Baiji's expression, Yihua was certain. That father back then is definitely not my father. Furthermore, Dong Huang Baiji was taken down after she became an adult. Right now Yihua was very curious just what kind of secret does the Empress have. Dong Huang Ji pointed at the table and said lightly, it is normal that you don't know because the place where you grew up is here. Hearing such news, Dong Huang Baiji's mind went blank. I actually grew up here? Then, how are we going to explain what happened in Voidless Realm? I'm talking about here. Dong Huang emphasized again. Dong Huang Ji Shang, who was at the side, didn't say anything. Here? Yihua asked puzzledly. Yes, your wife grew up here. Yihua was really confused. My woman actually grew up in such a small place. Then what was the reason? Who let Dong Huang Baiji grow up here? Dong Huang Baiji was already shocked to the point that she was speechless. Extreme High, are you still not going to call for reinforcements? Dong Huang said indifferently. The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched slightly. Call for help? What does that mean? Dong Huang Baiji? Call me mommy? *CK me. This plot was a little exaggerated. Believe it or not, I will smash your head. Qing Su and Dou Fusher, who were standing at the side, also had stupefied looks on their faces. It seems like we are thinking the same thing as Yihua. Could it be that this family head is going to call me mom? If that's the case, then this matter is going to be huge. His honor is actually so miserable. Wan's chin was about to drop onto the ground. This Dong Huang family's gossip is simply too explosive. Dong Huang Baiji was startled. Looking at Dong Huang Ji, who was in front of her, this slightly older man, he wouldn't start calling me mommy, right? Don't call me mommy. Dong Huang Ji closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Everyone looked at Dong Huang Ji's mouth movements and held their breaths. Even their scalps were a little numb. Yihua felt that as long as this Dong Huang Ji calls me mommy, I will slaughter everyone here. Everything is a plot. Big sister. Following the word big sister, Dong Huang Baiji was stupefied. Yihua's mouth slightly opened. Qing Su and Dou Fusher didn't expect this at all. This is almost the same as calling me mommy. Wan also didn't expect that this Dong Huang Ji would actually call me big sister. What the *CK was going on? Everyone's mind was filled with a huge question mark. I am your big sister? Dong Huang Baiji asked blankly. Dong Huang Ji nodded his head, and his expression seemed to be a little unwilling. However, Dong Huang Ji said lightly, Child, you are my big brother's daughter. Dong Huang Ji is your blood-related younger brother, and Dong Huang Shini is also your blood-related younger brother. Dong Huang Baiji started sweating. Just what is going on? How did I suddenly have two blood-related younger brothers? Yihua felt that, it's hopeless, it's completely hopeless. Originally, I thought that this is a plot, and I suspect that this is a plot, but looking at the situation, it should be a problem with Dong Huang Baiji herself. Why did I come here alone when I was young? Either I have mental problems or I don't get along well with others just like me. Then why did I go to other places? What? Dong Huang Baiji had a lot of questions in her mind. Dong Huang Ji said lightly, because you killed Dong Huang Shini, and almost killed Dong Huang Ji as well. Yihua's expression was very interesting. To be able to make a supreme overlord reveal an embarrassed expression, I reckon that there isn't anyone else in this world. My own woman actually didn't even let off her blood-related younger brother. Isn't this too cruel? Could it be that this Dong Huang Ji doesn't have a good expression the moment he arrived? I am about to be killed by my own big sister. How can I still have a good expression? However, the Supreme Overlord, I seem to be liking the Empress more and more. I just like this kind of blood Empress. This is too explosive. Dong Huang Baiji didn't know what to say anymore. How did I become the person who killed my blood-related younger brother? It must be fake. You have had a problem since you were young. Dong Huang Ji pointed at his own head and said. Yihua was speechless. I actually guessed correctly. The Empress was mentally abnormal when she was young, which is why she was left alone at the side. After that, the Empress who had gone insane killed her own blood-related younger brother, and in the end the Empress was exiled from the family. This should be the plot, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. However, why do I feel that there isn't anything wrong with the Empress's intelligence? Dong Huangji said lightly, when you were born the entire Dong Huang family suffered from a plague and a lot of people died. Therefore you are an inauspicious person. Furthermore, you have a bit of a mental problem which made everyone feel even more suspicious of you, and that's why they locked you up here. Your father had only seen you twice, the first time was when you were born, and the second time was when he sent you away. Your mother had only seen you once, and that was when you were born. All of the nannies who had taken care of you before had already died. Even now, I can still vaguely remember the short and small you holding onto a small knife and standing beside a corpse. Dong Huangji's words caused everyone to be shocked. Yihua felt that what Dong Huangji said was nonsense. After all, there isn't any evidence at all. Dong Huang Baiji doesn't believe that I am that kind of person. How is that possible? End of this chapter. Chapter 1241. What? Mother only met her once? Yihua asked curiously. Dong Huangji Shang said faintly, Mother knew that big sister killed her little brother, so she was angered to death. Yihua, Dong Huang Baiji found it hard to believe. This is fake, right? Qing Su and Dou Fusher were both shocked. Your wife actually has such a dark history? Dong Huangji said faintly, Baiji actually, some things cannot be blamed on you. Those nannies who took care of you back then all had the intention to harm you, that's why you fought back. I only found out about this matter after investigating for a long time, and I suspect that their goal was to harm you. Yihua felt that this old man really knows how to keep me in suspense. I was just wondering why my woman looks so kind-hearted as to kill people indiscriminately. Back then, although there was something wrong with your mind, most of it was normal. Furthermore, you were more mature than your peers and your strength was also top-notch. At that time, I realized that you might be the first goddess in the entire 9 provinces and 5 seas, and not Mengyao. It's a pity that Dong Huang Shen entered the indestructible shrine. Back then you saw through him with a single look and killed him. And when Ji Shang wanted to save Big Brother, he was injured by you as well. You are simply too strong. This is what a pure bloodline looks like. In the end, your father still agreed to send you away, erased your memories, sealed your strength, and told Dong Huangpa to protect you. Child, after so many years have passed, you are finally back. Seeing how you are now, I believe that your father's spirit in heaven would be gratified. After all, you are also his flesh and blood. Everyone wanted to kill you, but he protected you. Yihua remained silent. I don't know if what this old man said is true or not. While Dong Huang Baiji's expression was calm, her heart was in turmoil and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Is my identity real or not? Can I believe what they say? Dong Huangji said lightly, I know that you won't believe me. After finished speaking, he waved his hand, and an image appeared in front of him. This was Dong Huang Baiji. She was currently sitting in the pavilion outside, and her expression was a bit dull, making her look very young. Yihua looked at the pavilion outside. It looks exactly the same. However, this doesn't seem to explain anything. Dong Huangji looked calm, but his heart wasn't calm either. Yihua, I'm a bit tired. Dong Huangji said lightly. East Emperor nodded his head. East Emperor Ji stood up and said, I'll bring you guys to rest. Yihua didn't say anything. I have a feeling that there's something fishy about this, but for the time being, I don't know what it is. Should he let White Bones come over to scout for information? After all, White Bones was an abnormal person, a bug. Forget it, there's no meaning in the main Supreme Overlord cheating like this. The main Supreme Overlord is already cheating with his own strength. If his subordinates were to cheat as well, then that would be too arrogant. Following behind Dong Huangji Shang, everyone arrived at the Orange House. On the way, Dong Huangji Shang was very quiet, seemingly as if he didn't want to pay attention to this big sister. Yihua didn't say anything. So what if you don't pay attention to me? My woman doesn't care about this place at all. The disciples of the Orange Tower were puzzled. Why would the family head personally bring a few people along? He was puzzled. Feel free to stay in this row of rooms. Dong Huangji Shang said softly. Yihua said faintly, you can go now. Dong Huangji Shang looked at Yihua with hostility in his eyes. Yihua was not afraid at all, and he stared back at Dong Huangji Shang. I have never been afraid of anyone. If you're hungry, call the servants. Dong Huang Jishang spoke indifferently. After that, he disappeared from his location. Yihua snorted coldly, Baiji, go and rest for a while. I don't think that these people are good people. I'm going to rest, Yihua. Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice, then walked into the room. Yihua still wanted to go in and comfort the empress, but in the end, Dong Huang Baiji closed the door. In Dong Huangji's room, Dong Huangji appeared once again. Uncle, are you still unwilling to give up just like father? All these years I've been waiting for Baiji's return. Dong Huang Jishang said in a deep voice. Jishang, your father would do anything for this matter. Now Baiji has come back on her own accord. Isn't this a good thing? Dong Huang Yi took a sip of his tea. Dong Huang Ying, who was standing behind him, was also a little confused. Dong Huang Jishang said in a deep voice, Uncle, back then when Dong Huangpa escaped with Big Sister, wasn't it because he wanted to avoid your pursuit? Moreover, Eastern Emperor Xin Yi deserved to die. Bastard. Why did Dong Huang Xin say that he was your elder brother? Dong Huang Baiji's body is a sacrificial offering. Uncle, no one is a sacrificial offering the moment they are born. These are all groundless things that you all forcefully added onto them. Dong Huang Jishang said in displeasure. Dong Huang Ji let out a nasal snort, then said in disdain, Didn't you not point it out just now? You are afraid that Dong Huang Baiji will threaten your position, right? Isn't that all because of you, who allowed Baiji to clearly display her strength in front of everyone? Dong Huang Jishang hated this kind of person. Dong Huang Jishang calculated everything and used his position to force me to stand on his side. Nephew, you are in charge of the entire Dong Huang family. When did uncle interfere with your matters? You also know what uncle is waiting for, and you also know that for the sake of this matter, uncle will do anything. Dong Huang Jishang took a deep breath, then took a look at Dong Huang Ying with a look of disgust, then left. This is also a kind of tacit agreement. At this moment, Dong Huang Ying asked respectfully, Master, didn't you say that? Dong Huang Baiji, that's right, I won't go back on what I promised you. Isn't a soulless body better? Dong Huang Ji said faintly, then walked out of the room, leaving behind Dong Huang Ying, who had a strange look on his face. A soulless body? Dong Huang Ying tightly wrinkled his brows. What I want is not a soulless body. An empress like that would no longer be an empress. Master, you actually lied to me. Dong Huang Ying was very angry. We had a promise back then. I sold my soul so that I can obtain Dong Huang Baiji. But now, you actually went back on your words. Dong Huang Ying tightly clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. On the other side, Yihua, Qing Su, and the others were currently feeling bored, and Wan had already gone back to her room to sleep. Yihua brought Qing Su and Dou Fusher to the Orange Building, planning to go and watch that youngster's match. Qing Su, do you have any way to lure out imperishable shrines people? Yihua asked faintly. Subordinate doesn't have any way to do it yet. Yihua looked at the enormous Orange Building. This Orange Building is probably even bigger than my Wushu Empire. Is there any way to lure out Wei Chang? Yihua asked again. Subordinate doesn't have any way to do it yet. Yihua, Dou Fusher. Tell me. Dou Fusher's heart was about to collapse. Why do I keep asking questions? I don't want to answer questions at all. Your Honor, subordinate doesn't dare to say. End of chapter. Chapter 1242. Just say it. Your Honor, I feel that Lord Qing Su has a better idea. Dou Fusher wasn't going to fall for Qing Su's trick. Qing Su said softly, Your Honor, subordinate believes that Wei Chang will appear sooner or later. Yihua felt that it was better not to ask. These two people still don't have brains. However, Your Honor, I feel that Dong Huang is a little strange this time. Qing Su said in a low voice. Dou Fusher nodded. I still think that person is a little strange. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then said faintly, I feel that everyone is acting weird. The three of them walked slowly towards the youth assembly. They stood high up on the spectator stand. Although it was a little far away, it was not a hindrance. On a stage, a fierce battle was currently happening. However, Yihua didn't have the mood to watch it at all. Qing Su, if they wanted to do something bad to Baiji, when would they choose to do it? Yihua asked curiously. Qing Su said in a low voice, If it were me, now would be the best time. No. Yihua muttered. That's right. I am not by Dong Huang Baiji's side right now. This is a good opportunity for me to make my move. He knew that Dong Huang Baiji's mood wasn't good, and she would definitely want to be alone. There weren't many people around her, and it would be the best time for him to make his move. After hearing that, Yi Hua did not become excited, and he also did not have any plans to go back. Even if something were to happen, it would be them who would be in trouble. You guys really don't know anything about Her Majesty. She is a fiery hot woman. Only in front of me she is like a little lamb. Just as they were chatting, a person appeared behind them. Yi Hua and the others knew about it, but none of them chose to turn their heads back. They were just that arrogant. Since they were standing at the back alone, did they have to turn their heads back? There are too few people who are able to make me turn back. Dong Huang Baiji is in danger. The person who came was naturally Dong Huang Ying. He knew that Dong Huang Ying had already gone to harm Dong Huang Baiji, and he was powerless to do anything about it. Thus he could only come and tell Yi Hua about it. Although Dong Huang Ying wanted the Empress, he wanted the complete Empress, not a soulless shell. Yi Hua heard it, but he still didn't turn his head around. Why are you telling me all these? What? Dong Huang Baiji is in danger, aren't you going to save her? Dong Huang Ying asked in a deep voice. Why was this man so calm? He was like this when he attacked Ying family and he was still like this now. Save her? You don't understand. You should go and save your people. Yi Hua smoked the cigarette and blew a mouthful of smoke into the air, appearing to be very comfortable. I was just worrying that the ghost did not come out, and now that the ghost has come out by itself, it saved me a lot of trouble. Dong Huang Ying frowned, then turned around and left. The Empress must have been blind to marry such a man. Within Dong Huang Baiji's room right now, Dong Huang Baiji was not lying on the bed. Instead, she was sitting beside the wooden window and looking into the distance. His mind was in a mess and he didn't know what to do. In the past, I seemed to be a bad woman. In any case, I was the kind of woman that was not welcomed, and was doubted by everyone. Dong dong dong. At this moment the door rang. Who? Dong Huang Baiji asked confusedly. Yi Hua definitely wouldn't knock on the door, and Yi Hua's subordinates wouldn't knock on the door either. Baiji, it's me. Dong Huang's voice sounded slowly. This caused Dong Huang Baiji to feel very puzzled. Why did this man come here? It was very strange. Please come in. Dong Huang Baiji shouted out in a low voice. Dong Huang Ji pushed open the wooden door and walked in, then said with a smile, Baiji, have you gotten used to living here? It's pretty good, the environment here is pretty good. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly, seemingly not putting up her guard against Dong Huang Ji. A trace of a smile appeared on Dong Huang Baiji's face. It's fine as long as you feel that it's good. It has been a very long time since you have returned home. Oh. Everything here is very unfamiliar to me. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. She did not feel that this place was her home. Where there is a home there will definitely be a Yi Hua. Dong Huang Ji laughed lightly, then sat on the wooden chair and patted the white shirt that he was wearing. Baiji, how is your body? Dong Huang Ji suddenly asked. Dong Huang Baiji's gaze became serious. Leaning on the windowsill with one of her hands, Dong Huang Baiji looked at the back of Dong Huang Ji's head with a puzzled expression. You? Baiji, I am really happy that you are able to come back. After all, I have been waiting for you for a long time and in the end I was about to give up. However, I met a person. At that time, I knew that we would meet each other sooner or later, and thus I have been waiting for you. If Dong Huang Baiji still doesn't understand right now, then she would have been an empress for nothing. This Dong Huang Ji wants to harm me, and I am the one who delivered myself to him. However, Dong Huang Baiji was also very confused. What is the name of that person that you are talking about? Oh, his name is Dong Huang Ying. He is a slave that I took in. In the past he was called In Kangshi, right? In Kangshi. Although Dong Huang Baiji had never met In Kangshi before, she still knew that name. It's actually that. Dong Huang Baiji doesn't even know how to address that person anymore. Back then, I only went to that place because I was angry. I didn't expect that In Kangshi would actually become Dong Huang Ying. My God, I didn't expect that. Do you feel that your body doesn't have any strength left? Dong Huang Ji asked faintly. What are you trying to do? Dong Huang Baiji questioned coldly. Dong Huang Ji stood up, then turned around and looked towards the weak Dong Huang Baiji. The Dong Huang family is afraid of one thing, dragon incense. This is a type of sandalwood incense. As long as one smells it, one's entire body will become weak, and one will not be able to circulate one's energy. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards the sandalwood incense that was at the side and tightly wrinkled her brows. You guys had planned this from the start. I'm sorry, what you said is correct. Everything had indeed been planned out. Why? Your attitude in the past wasn't like this. Could it be that everything that you said was a lie? Dong Huang Baiji tightly held onto the windowsill, not letting her body fall down. Beads of sweat had already dripped down from her forehead, and she was gasping for breath. Dong Huangji took out a handkerchief and lightly wiped away Dong Huang Baiji's sweat. Child, you were born with extraordinary talent, and even your father was envious of you. Your bloodline is the purest in history. This caused our hearts to be clouded by lard, and in order to obtain your bloodline, we could only separate you and raise you separately. You guys are raising me like this? You can understand it that way. However, I didn't expect that your strength would become stronger and stronger, and it seems like you are a bit out of control. Originally, your father planned to directly kill you and seize the power of your bloodline, but what a pity. You killed a path of blood out of him. Also, because of you, your mother took a blade from your father, and that is the true cause of her death. Dong Huangji said with a slight smile, seemingly not placing the matter in his heart at all. To experts like them, as long as there was a better way to break through, they would be willing to pay any price. End of this chapter. Chapter 1243. Furthermore, Dong Huang Baiji was only a child, and this child was born by them in the first place. Therefore they believed that they had the right to decide the life and death of this child. This was the cruelty of a large clan. No, it should be the cruelty of the world. Dong Huang Baiji finally understood. So it turns out that what she said earlier was all a lie, and this is the truth. He had been locked up since he was born. It could be explained as being raised. These people were just spying on his bloodline. It was a tragedy to be born in such a family. You want to obtain my bloodline? Dong Huang Baiji asked in puzzlement. That's right, child. Your bloodline is the purest in the Eastern Emperor clan. If you obtain it, unifying the 9 prefectures and 5 seas is also possible. This time, Dong Huang was not interested in the position of clan leader, but in the 9 prefectures and 5 seas. He wanted to get rid of the other clans to show how strong the Dong Huang clan was. Dong Huang Baiji knew about the temptation of power, but she didn't expect that they would be so cruel just for the sake of power. Child, do not be afraid. There will be no pain. This time, Dong Huang flipped his palm and a black pillar appeared in his hand. This pearl was prepared for you. Your father didn't get to enjoy it, so I got lucky. This time Dong Huang smiled. This smile of his seemed to be sincere and happy, as if he had finally achieved what he had been waiting for many years. However, at this moment the door was pushed open, interrupting their conversation. Dong Huang's face darkened. He said coldly, "What are you doing here?" The person who came was naturally Dong Huang Ying. Just now, Dong Huang Ying went to look for Yi Hua, yet Yi Hua didn't come. How could Dong Huang Ying possibly sit still? The Empress was won by me, Dong Huang. Including the soul. No one could move. Master, don't suck her soul. This was the first time Dong Huang Ying acted arrogantly in front of Dong Huang Yi. In the past he was always respectful towards Dong Huang Yi. But now he seemed very calm. Because Dong Huang Ying knew that if he did that he might very well die. But even if he were to die, he would remain firm in his belief. The Empress is mine. I'm the man who's going to marry the Empress. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Ying Kangshi. This was the person that she wanted to marry in the past. However, that was only a decision that she made after getting angry. Dong Huangji didn't even turn his head and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? How dare you beg me? You promised me before. Let me have her." Dong Huang Ying shouted angrily. This liar. Hearing Dong Huang Ying's words, Dong Huang Baiji was very surprised. I didn't expect that they would have such a transaction. In that case, they are in conflict right now? It seems like you're here to question my decision. This time, Dong Huang Ying was already emitting killing intent. However, Dong Huang Ying didn't seem to be afraid at all. He wanted to fight to the end. Dong Huang Ying said in a deep voice, "That is what you promised me. Then I've decided right now. I won't agree. Then I can only use the most primitive method." Dong Huang Ying immediately released his aura. Obviously his aura was much stronger than before. But no matter how strong he was, he paled in comparison to Dong Huang. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. "Seems like you want to die," Dong Huang said indifferently and raised his palm. Dong Huang Ying, who was imposing just a moment ago, was instantly suppressed. His entire body seemed to be tied up by something, and his face revealed a painful expression. When you sold your soul to me, there were no more conditions. Dong Huang slowly clenched his fists. As for Dong Huang, he felt as if his body was being squeezed, and his 7 apertures were bleeding. Bah! The Empress is mine. Everyone wants to snatch her away from me. Dong Huang's obsession was a bit terrifying. Even if he was going to die right now, he wasn't afraid at all. Reckless fool. Dong Huang clenched his fists tightly. Crack. All of the bones in Dong Huang's body began cracking. However, it couldn't be seen from the outside at all. But even so, Dong Huang's gaze was still on Dong Huang Baiji's body. Next life. In my next life, I still want to marry you. At that time, no one will be able to stop me. Dong Huang waved his hand, and Dong Huang's body turned into dust and disappeared from the room. I gave you an inch and you want a foot. I promised to give you a physical body, yet you are still not satisfied. Dong Huang said in disdain. Dong Huang Baiji leaned on the windowsill and gasped for breath. You even killed your subordinate. He is not a subordinate, he is just a person who is neither male nor female. Even an ant is nobler than him. Dong Huang said lightly. Yi Hua claimed that he was an inhumane person, but compared to them, Yi Hua was rather compassionate. Towards Ying Kangshi's death, Dong Huang Baiji didn't feel much. After all, so many years had passed, and Ying Kangshi suddenly appeared and even collaborated with others to deal with me. I was disturbed by him for a while. Let's begin. I have waited for this moment for a long time, and I don't want to continue waiting any longer. Child, thank you. The black pearl floated up from Dong Huang's palm. Dong Huang Baiji could be seen with the naked eye. Needless to say, the black pearl was definitely absorbing Dong Huang Baiji's bloodline. Dong Huang's gaze was filled with excitement. I am going to possess the strongest bloodline very soon. That indestructible Shrine's Palace Master is going to teach me a lesson with a slap. Dong Huang Baiji could feel that the bloodline within her body was currently trembling. This pearl is indeed very powerful. However, Dong Huang slightly wrinkled his brows. I have been absorbing for such a long time, why isn't there any reaction? This doesn't seem to be possible. While wrinkling his brows, Dong Huang continued to wait. Dong Huang, are you feeling very confused? Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice. Dong Huang did not say anything. I don't feel very good. Logically speaking, I have already absorbed all of my bloodline, so why isn't there any reaction at all? Dong Huang Baiji continued, in actuality, other than Dong Huang's bloodline, there is another bloodline within my body. There is another bloodline? Dong Huang cried out in surprise. That's right, that bloodline is called Yi Hua's bloodline. Dong Huang Baiji knew that the power of Yi Hua's bloodline had already fused with her body. Even Qinya had Yi Hua's bloodline. To be more precise, as long as one gives birth to Yi Hua's child, one would be able to possess Yi Hua's bloodline. This is definitely a super great benefit. If all the women were to know about this, they would definitely flock towards it. This is simply a cheating tool. Yi Hua's bloodline? What bloodline is this? Dong Huang asked confusedly. This bloodline is very powerful to the point that I don't even know how powerful I am. Dong Huang Baiji raised her head and looked towards Dong Huang. Her slightly arched body gradually straightened up. Although the black pearl was absorbing the bloodline, it was unable to absorb anything. Dong Huang didn't believe it. Stretching out his hand, Dong Huang Baiji held onto the black pearl with his hand and used his own cultivation technique to increase the absorption power. Dong Huang Baiji just stood there without moving. However, Dong Huang's expression became more and more grave. How is this possible? It is impossible for there to be a mistake. End of this chapter. Chapter 1244. Dong Huangji, the one who made a mistake is not the pearl but yourselves. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly. She was extremely disappointed in this family. Dong Huangji looked at Dong Huang Baiji in disbelief. You are not Dong Huang Baiji. Are you panicking? Dong Huang Baiji slowly sat on the wooden chair at the side. Dong Huang Baiji's slender fingers were placed on the armrest as she looked at Dong Huang Ci with her eyes. Dong Huang Baiji appeared exceptionally calm. Compared to the perplexed Dong Huang Ci from before, the current Dong Huang Baiji was the real empress. Dong Huangji's expression tensed up as he stared at Dong Huang Baiji, as if he was trying to see through her. However, he didn't manage to see through her. After a long time, Dong Huangji laughed lightly and said faintly, Baiji, I have still underestimated you. As expected of the most talented person in Dong Huang family. After so many years, you have become even more powerful than before. Seems like your pure bloodline has helped you quite a bit. I don't know about bloodline, but I do know that having a powerful man is much more important than bloodline. Dong Huang Baiji's lips formed an arc. Bloodline is nothing. Dong Huangji frowned. He didn't expect that this would happen and deviate from his plan. Looking at Dong Huang Baiji in front of him, Dong Huangji had the intention to kill her. However, if he were to make a move, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. At that time, everyone would know that he was going to steal her bloodline. After all, Dong Huang Baiji had displayed her bloodline before. I shouldn't have done that back then, but who knew? This woman actually became so powerful that I can't even suck her bloodline anymore. Are you thinking of killing me? Dong Huang Baiji asked lightly without any fear. But are you afraid that the commotion would be too big and that it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess? Dong Huang Baiji was, after all, an empress. Dong Huangji said gravely, Baiji, you have become very smart, but this will only speed up your death. You want me to die? Are you sure? After all, I have a man who regards me as important as his life. Dong Huang Baiji said proudly. In any case, Yi Hua is not here, so I might as well boast as I want. Dong Huangji snorted coldly, Baiji, the current you looks much more comfortable than before. Of course, because I'm not that easy to provoke and I won't be bullied by you. Dong Huang Baiji's tone gradually became cold. Towards those who wanted to harm her own people, Dong Huang Baiji would never be soft-hearted. On this point she was different from Qingya. So, therefore you will die today. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly, announcing Dong Huang's death. Dong Huang chuckled. You're announcing my death? How arrogant, even more arrogant than before. You are thinking that I don't dare to make a move here, right? At that time, if the commotion were to become too big, it would not be good for me either. After all, if I were to kill you, my reputation would not be good. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly. So you still know. This is also the reason why I didn't kill you. Dong Huang Baiji said in disdain. This Dong Huang Baiji is a bit hard to grasp. Just now, when Dong Huang Baiji sucked on the blood, I knew that Dong Huang Baiji's strength is definitely not beneath mine. But I want to tell you, you think that I will cause a commotion, but when I kill you, I will definitely not cause a commotion. Dong Huang Baiji's tone was cold. The moment I walked into this East Royal family, I was plotted against. Even these rooms are filled with dragon incense. It is as if they are trying to harm me. This is simply intolerable. Since you are so cruel to me, then don't blame me for not giving you any face. Ha ha ha. Dong Huang Baiji, although you have a pure bloodline, it is impossible for you to kill me silently. Dong Huangji laughed loudly. He was laughing at Dong Huang Baiji for overestimating herself. At this time, 3 figures walked into the room. She might cause a commotion, but I can. Yi Hua said faintly while smoking. Qing Su and Dou Fusher followed behind him. Dong Huangji suddenly turned his head around. I actually didn't notice them coming in. Yi Hua sat beside Dong Huang Baiji, Qing Su stood beside Yi Hua, and Dou Fusher closed the door and stood guard at the entrance. His meaning couldn't be any clearer, you will not be able to leave today. Just give up on this thought. Dong Huangji was naturally able to sense it as well, and he said gravely, looks like you are planning to go against the entire East Royal family. Yi Hua flicked the cigarette ash and said lightly, you used the wrong word, this is not a fight, this is a one-sided fight. One-sided fight? Looks like you don't know anything about the East Royal family. Looks like you are the same as other people, you don't understand the situation clearly. This time I brought my wife here just to cause trouble. Originally, I thought that since you two are a loving family, there would be nothing to cause trouble for me. However, I never expected that you still gave me an excuse to cause trouble. Yi Hua had been watching from outside for a long time, and he thought that Dong Huang Baiji had already settled everything. But when he came back, the Empress was still chatting with someone else. Thus, he didn't disturb her and eavesdropped on them from outside. Feeling that it was about time, Yi Hua walked into the room. After all, it is time for me to flaunt my strength. I said that I will take turns to act cool. Then, I would like to see how you two are going to kill me silently. Dong Huangji said in disdain, and a sharp aura was emitted out from him. Yi Hua flicked the cigarette but that was on his finger and said faintly, originally, I planned to insta-kill you, but you felt that I wouldn't dare to kill you openly. This made me a bit surprised in this world, there is nothing that I, the Supreme Overlord, don't dare to do. Just when Yi Hua finished speaking, a powerful aura suddenly blossomed, forming a powerful airwave. The room was instantly blown over, and Wan Wan, who was sleeping at the side, immediately let out a scream. I thought that someone was going to kill me, and when she saw Yi Hua, who was not far away, she hurriedly ran over. Not a single building in the surroundings was spared, and all of them collapsed. Everyone felt and even heard such a thing happening in the orange building. Dong Huangji, who was hosting the youngsters' assembly, frowned. What is Uncle doing? Something's wrong. This aura isn't Uncle's, there isn't even a bit of bloodline aura, it belongs to someone else. Jianghu, who was sitting at the side, said in a low voice, something happened here. I know. Dong Huangji immediately disappeared from the spot, and Jianghu hurriedly followed after him. Today the Dong Huang family will not be peaceful anymore. As the disciples of the orange building, they all rushed towards the location of the incident. Right now Dong Huang Baiji was a bit dizzy. Yi Hua is trying to blow this matter up. I originally wanted to kill Dong Huangji stealthily. Does Yi Hua really think that I am afraid of him? You all treated my woman like that, how can you all not pay the price? Do you all really think that my temper is that good? You are truly thinking too much. Dong Huangji didn't expect that Yi Hua would actually dare to do such a thing. With such a huge commotion, everyone in the Dong Huang family would definitely know about it. The matter went out of control again, and this caused Dong Huangji to be very angry. This man is truly crazy. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.